Prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed officers of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon the abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to perform such important trust in this land. Let your blessings send upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, and in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as promote your honor and glory, and advance the good of those whose interests you've committed to their charge.
Item 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I welcome you to this sitting. And just to give you a head start, that there is a very high possibility that on Thursday this House will rise to give members an opportunity to go and do some of the work in their respective constituencies. It's a very high possibility that that might happen. And if it happens, then on Thursday you'll be able to go on recess. But I'll communicate that properly on that day. But I just want to, so with that energy, let's try, because it will depend on how we are able to finish what is before us. Because if by that day we still have business that we should have done and we have not done, then I could easily let us go up to next week. So that means we have to use the time very well so that we can be able to do this on Thursday. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have people from Chesawa, Daystar, and Nyalit Parents Primary School, representing Honorable Chemtai Evelyn, Honorable Chelimo Ruben Paul, Bukwa District. They are here to observe the proceedings of this House. Please join me in welcoming them. You are welcome. Can we proceed?
Item 3.
Let me have Rubaga, North.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you raise on a matter of national importance regarding blood-shedding fighting among border groups in Kampala. 2 weeks back, Right Honorable Speaker, Natete Wakaliga Road in Kampala was engulfed in blood-shedding battles by a number of border groups, and resulting in serious injuries and near death. As we speak, 2 of the victims are still nursing very serious injuries in various medical facilities, and others are now threatening revenge against what happened to their colleagues. Mr. Speaker, this is not a simple matter, because as leaders in Kampala, we are getting information that this fighting is being fueled by high-ranking government figures. In fact, the patrons of the different groups are said to include General Salim Saleh, General Henry Tumukunde, General Kale Kayihura.
Are you stating that for a fact? Please, Honorable.
Right, Honorable Speaker, it is some information which we have.
Because when you are now stating names of people and associating with them, gang leaders, it's not right. They have no right to defend themselves here. Please state the issue you want to raise. Leave people out of this, please.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the guidance. Our suspicion is that there are some figures, high-ranking in the government, who could be fueling this kind of fighting among border groups. And what I wanted the government to do is to explain, one, how the management of border in Kampala is being addressed, and 2, if it is true that some high government ranking officials are involved in this, government should explain the interest of, for example, soldiers and political figures in the border industry. in Kampala. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please let the records, please expand from the records the mention of the individuals who are mentioned in this particular statement. Government?
Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, we will request the Minister of Kampala Affairs to come and make a statement, but it's important to note that indeed government is not involving in fueling fights against its citizens. We don't have that record at all, but nevertheless we'll look into the matter, and the Honorable Minister for Kampala will be able to come and make a statement.
Thank you. Kasanda, North, South, Kasanda South.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I'm raising on a matter of national importance regarding the security of members of parliament attending national functions generally, but specifically the security of members of parliament who have expressed their opinion on the ongoing debate regarding the lifting of the age limit for presidential candidates.
Procedure, order. Procedure, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, yes. Mr. Speaker, it is a point of procedure.
Have you been allowed by the Speaker?
That is why I'm speaking.
Procedure.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise up on the point of procedure. The Speaker last week warned all members of Parliament not to go public about the same matter raised by the Honorable. And it's now very clear that he's rising up on the same matter on the floor of Parliament, well knowing that after you ordering not to speak about it because it is not yet raised on the floor of Parliament, no member of Parliament shall speak in that regard. I'm asking through you that is it procedurally right for that member to rise on the same point, well knowing that you already ruled on the same matter? I ask for that guidance.
Honorable member, you are rising on another matter. Please stick to the issue you want to raise.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for your wise guidance. Specifically, I was on the security of members of Parliament. Honorable members, all of you are aware of what happened yesterday. On me specifically, while I was in Mubende, attending the 24th coronation anniversary of His Majesty, the Kabaka of Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, as a practice, all members from Buganda Kingdom were invited to attend this function.
You're not making a statement. You are raising a matter of urgent public importance. Please
Yes, sir.
raise it that way.
So, Honorable Speaker, the matter I'm raising, sir, yesterday I was attacked, manhandled, and assaulted by a well-known journalist in Kampala by names of Ntege William Chuma Cha Yesu. Honorable Speaker, I need your protection, sir.
Please, honorable member, can we listen to this urgent matter being raised?
Honorable Speaker, what happened when we are called to go and pay our respect before the Kabaka? From nowhere, this journalist came and confronted me. I said, please stop. You are the one supporting age limit. You are the one supporting Museveni. You also go like a Kawes. Those were his words. While pushing me behind, assaulting me, I was only rescued by my honorable colleague, Honorable Katolu Bwama and Honorable Wakaima Musoke. Right Honorable Speaker, we should not take this matter lightly. Yesterday it was Smewo, tomorrow it will be somebody else. All of us were victims of this. From my observation, Right Honorable Speaker, the suspect who is now in police detention originally was a journalist in Kampala here, working with WBS and NTV, but he was sacked and he has been unemployed.
Is that still an urgent matter?
So the point, Honorable Speaker, my prayer, sir, is that the minister in charge of internal affairs should come up with a statement for this house, specifically to state the status of security of members of parliament. Because it has not happened on me, it has even happened to other members. The other time, Honorable Kakoza James almost was being assaulted by a fellow member in a radio station. So,
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Point of order.
Right Honorable Speaker, the member rose on a matter of national importance. What we are getting at the latest is telling this House of what happened is in radio studios and how a vote actually went to ask him about his project to do with age limit campaign. Right Honorable Speaker, that cannot be any matter of national importance.
You have ruled, no?
It cannot be any matter of urgency when we are confronted always by our voters to ask, to get us sensitize them on what happens in Parliament.
Are you ruling now?
Right Honorable Speaker, is he in order to mislead you and the whole House that what is actually submitting is any matter of national importance when he's actually talking about himself and his voters? Is he in order?
Honorable members, sometimes what affects an individual can affect anybody else. The member is simply stating that he was attacked and that another member was also attacked. That's the urgent matter he's raising. Please, let's not lose sight of what he has stated, because it's true, at least from the press, that the member was under some kind of situation yesterday. Can we hear from Minister on this?
I was winding up.
But what is that? What is, please?
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this Parliament needs to come out strongly to condemn these acts of organism which are coming up. The Parliament needs to issue a strong statement. There is a deliberate and calculated move by our members of opposition to attack us. This one can be witnessed.
Order,
Speaker, there was a rally on Friday in
Mr. Speaker, order. Point of order. Point of order.
Sit down.
Order.
Speaker, I need your guidance.
Additional information.
Can we have some order?
Order is creating disorder.
Can we
May I give
have
information,
some
Honorable
order?
Speaker?
Can
Point of
we,
order.
Can we have some order? Please resume your seats.
Last Friday, 2 members from opposition organized political rallies in Machindye and Nakulabye, where they deliberately issued threats against us. This one is on record, and I can request you, you bring the video
Mr.
here
Speaker.
to see.
When you mention
These
Machindye,
threats are well
I have to
calculated.
rise
Yes,
to put
you
in
are the
order.
one organized.
I have to rise to.
Please, you were the ruling of the Speaker. You are the one who organized the rally.
Please sit. Please sit down.
So, Right Honorable Speaker, those are my prayers.
Honorable members, you see, the mere fact that a member has violated order does not mean that you also now start violating order. Please. Please. There is, you see, you don't even have to shout to raise a point of order. Please. Please. Procedure on what? Please sit. If you are raising a point of order, raise it without making it so much drama. Please, 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 please. Honorable members, the rules of this house are clear. You must debate with courtesy to other members of the house. This place is set aside from other places in the country. There are places that you can do what you are doing here and it will be uploaded, but not here. For example, across the road there is the National Theatre. Such acts can be very well great entertainment. Please, let's leave things for the National Theatre to be there. And things for the house, let's have it here. Please. This, I am as presiding officer, I am not going to tolerate any conduct that will degenerate into chaos. Please. Please. But we have to respect each other. And the honorable member for Kasanda South, please, when you are raising your issue, raise them properly. Don't incite other members. Can I hear from the government on this issue, please?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. We, as the Minister of Internal Affairs, we sympathize with the unfortunate incident which befell our colleague. The security within that function was not provided, as has become the tradition, by the police. But the police, in its general duties, provided the security in the premises of that function. I am glad that after the incident, the honorable member acted appropriately and the police has, as he has stated, taken the culprit under custody. They will do the necessary investigations and come out as to what exactly happened. Regarding the general security of members of parliament, we do recognize our role in providing security for members of parliament because they are VIPs. But in the current circumstances, we as a ministry in charge of law and order are able to provide security generally for members of parliament, like all our citizens in the country. But where a member anticipates a particular element of security, we will always be more than willing to discuss the particular elements and see what additional security measures can be taken to protect such a member. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable members, we are members of this house and we know the matters that are before this house. As far as the amendment of the Constitution is concerned, we have one bill that relates to Article 26 of the Constitution. That is what we know is in the house. Anything else are those bills that we have. Anything else that is not yet before the house, please, let's respect what we have. Because if we respect what we have, that is the only way we'll stand above everybody else to take decisions when time for us to take decision comes. We cannot take decisions before anything has come before us. And the rules are strictly prohibitive of beginning to engage in discussions in anticipation of what is likely to come. For as long as they are not in the house, please, keep them out of the house. If they're in the house, we'll deal with them. And you have every right to deal with any matter that is before this house. And that should extend this courtesy to also the population. You represent them. Please don't go and start spreading things that are not yet even with you. How can you consult on something that is not there? Please, let's respect what we have, because that's the only protection we have as members of parliament. If we stick to the business that we have, you have protection. So let's respect this. It will help us in the way we process our businesses here. Kelak North? On this matter? No? Kelak North, please.
Right,
We
Honourable
have
Speaker.
concluded this matter.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I raised on matter of national importance, and this matter is actually touching on northern Uganda, especially Gulu district, where there is East African Secondary School Games that is supposed to take place from the 17th to 28th of this month. Right, Honourable Speaker, I was in Gulu this weekend, and I was approached by the chairman of LC5 that since March this year, when the planning for this activity started, they as a district worked out a budget and approached the Ministry of Education and Sports to make sure that the funding should go in time. But as I talk, no funding has been provided by the government, and the district resorted to working out within the district. And so far, using the old boys of St. Joseph College, Layibi, they've done a lot of work, almost 80% on the swimming pool in St. Joseph College, Layibi, which I think you belong there because you are OB also. And the local community has raised money to work on Bayapeche, the stadium that is going to host this big game, which will involve over 100 schools, which are actually they're going to be in Gulu. And as a region, people are happy because the district that was known for war could now be known somewhere else for some good thing. And why I'm rising up is that the district is now, they are under pressure. The game is supposed to start on the 17th. No money has been released by the government. And as we talk, the work is almost 80% complete, but the 20% can't be completed this period. I therefore would like to find out why government could not support this very important event for this country. Information?
Thank you. Honorable members, there was also a member for Gulu municipality. He wanted to raise this matter last week. I asked him to write, to put it in writing about what they discussed with the Prime Minister in Gulu, and he wrote to the Prime Minister, copied to the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. We wanted to get a response from that as to how the government is going to deal with the situation in Gulu. Honorable, do you have any information on this, finance?
Mr. Speaker, we will update the Shadow Minister for Finance.
Can I give additional information before you can give a response? Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the games were organized at national level, and the grounds were in Lira district. I happened to host it in a Boroboro Dr. Bote College. And what the honorable member has just said, Mr. Speaker, was a challenge. There was netball, there was athletics, and the rest of these other games. But the swimming component of it could not be done in northern Uganda because there was no swimming pool. Meaning that the talented students who could do the swimming had to travel up to Kampala for the swimming events or games. So it is a challenge that all of northern Uganda doesn't have a swimming pool, whereas the games has got to be hosted in northern Uganda. Meaning that whatever they're doing in Layibi is private, is not even owned by government. And government has got to put much effort on it. On that D-Day, Right Honorable Speaker, Uganda is preparing students to represent them at East African level. But some of them were running barefooted, and the funding was not enough. So I call upon government that next time we want our representation, please let's put enough inputs on them so that we get a better really results. So this is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, after here we'll check whether this activity was budgeted for. If it was, we will have to release the money as fast as possible so that the activities can go on. If it wasn't, then we'll have to sit and agree on how best we can support that activity and report back tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Remiaga, on what matter do you raise?
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
On what matter do you raise?
Yes, it's a matter of public importance,
No,
Right
no,
Honourable
please,
Speaker.
please. You know the rules.
Indicated to you.
No, please, you know the rules on this one.
I've
Please.
put down something to you.
Please,
Right
please,
Honourable
please,
Speaker.
you know the rules. Please, let's go by the rules, please. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker,
Procedure.
sir, the procedural matter I want to raise, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that shortly before I came in, I saw on TV my honorable colleague, Honorable Subuka Semeo, alleging that I had a fight with Honorable Kakoza. Mr. Speaker, I don't have the will, neither the capacity to fight Honorable Kakoza.
Member, was her name mentioned here?
Mr. Speaker.
No, please, let's protect our records. Let's protect our records. Please, the member did not call your name. No name was mentioned. He said he was attacked in a studio, and some member rose, said, "Are you going to bring things that?" Yeah, but the name was not mentioned. Why do you bring your name on record on something that was not mentioned?
Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker.
So you were the one, in other words?
Mr. Speaker, now that is your ruling, at least that puts the matter to rest, because, Mr. Speaker, it would be very bad for people to allege falsehoods here.
No, your name was never mentioned. I've been here. Please. Procedure.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I raise on procedural issue relating to Rule 75. Relating to the rule on debate. I'll state the rule as I conclude. Right Honourable Speaker, the procedural issue I am raising, we had a Minister of Constitutional Affairs insulted, attacked. He actually, those of us who watch TV, he had to be evacuated by police. Almost in the similar manner, our colleague has elaborated here earlier. The reason I am raising on procedural issue, in his statement, which remains on record, he says these kind of attacks are being organized by the opposition. The Honorable Minister for Constitutional Affairs, Honorable Tafire, was not insulted. No opposition I know in this country poured water on his suit, and no opposition chased him from a function. The idea of people getting angry and chasing people from functions is not in any way limited to the opposition, like the member is attempting to tell this parliament. Right Honourable Speaker, the procedural issue I am raising is whether our record should keep it, that each time we see someone being either stopped at a function from speaking or being told, go away, we don't want you, that someone should come here and accuse the opposition. The good thing I am speaking about General Tafire, who had to endure that humiliation and is a member of this parliament.
Honorable members, Ordinarily, those who are supporting you cannot attack you. It can only be those who are opposing you. Not so. It doesn't matter whether you are politically in the opposition, but even when you're in the opposition, those who oppose to you can attack you. Please, let's go with business. Next item.
Item 3.
Honorable Minister, there is nobody holding the floor.
I want to inform Honorable Semu Uganda that those who threw water in my back were actually members of the opposition, and especially the FDC.
That matter had been settled. Let's move with business. Please, let's move with business.
Item 3. Item 3, laying of papers. Report on parliamentary pension scheme.
Laying of papers. Honorable Remija Chair, are you laying the paper? Please proceed.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Allow me to lay on table parliamentary pension scheme report to Parliament June 2017. I beg to lay.
Let the records capture that. The report will be handled appropriately. Thank you.
Item 4, motion for resolution of Parliament moved under Rule 47 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament to constitute a select committee to investigate the Bank of Uganda.
Honorable members, this motion was moved and I proposed a question for debate, and I deferred debate to today. Honorable members, you recall in the course of presenting that motion, the member for Bukoto South raised on the matter that the issue that was being raised by the motion was sub judice, and that this House could not proceed with it. And my ruling was that we had not seen anything that showed that the specific issue under investigation in the press or anywhere else mentioned that Bank of Uganda was under investigation. So based on that information, I proceeded to allow the motion to be presented to its conclusion. On Friday, after the presentation of the motion, I received 2 letters. One letter from Mark's advocates, and the other letter from the Bank of Uganda. And the letter from Mark's advocate in its conclusion says that we therefore pray for the exercise of your powers addressed to the Deputy Speaker. Under Rule 64(5) of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, to make a ruling that the matter raised by the said motion in relation to Mark's advocate should be expunged on the basis of being sub judice and also as jurisdiction in relation to that complaint lies elsewhere. That is with the Law Council. That is their prayer. I received also another letter from Bank of Uganda, and the prayer is the same. In their case, in the case of the lawyers, they cite 2 paragraphs of the motion to establish relationship of Mark's advocates, who are the lawyers for Crane Bank, now acting for Bank of Uganda to sue Crane Bank, their client. And 2 that they cited, alarmed, however, that there is a possible conflict of interest and impropriety in the handling of the suit, since the law firm, Max Advocates representing Bank of Uganda, has previously represented Crane Bank Limited in various suits over the years. So because of this, they pray that this matter is sub judice, and that particular extended issue of who has jurisdiction to determine that matter, they say it should be the Law Council. In the case of Bank of Uganda, the letter I received states that we advise that the question of alleged mismanagement of Crane Bank Limited and the role of any Bank of Uganda and the role of any Bank of Uganda and or any of its officers therein is the subject matter of High Court Civil Suit number 362 of 2017, Derek Nsereko versus Bank of Uganda. And they attach the plaint. Secondly, we also wish to point out that the question as to whether Crane Bank Limited was mismanaged, the responsibility thereof and the culpability of its principal shareholder, Sudhir Ruparelia, is also the subject of High Court Civil Suit number 493 of 2017, Crane Bank Limited in receivership versus Sudhir Ruparelia and Mera Investments Limited, filed in the High Court on the 30th June 2017 and pending hearing. And that lastly, the question of the alleged mismanagement of Crane Bank Limited is also subject of High Court Civil Suit number 576 of 2017, Amos Nzei and another versus Bank of Uganda, Crane Bank Limited, Sudhir Ruparelia and another, filed in the High Court on the 25th of July 2017 and pending hearing. In this suit, the plaintiff, among other things, seek findings and orders that Bank of Uganda's failure to detect the frauds and irregularities in Crane Bank Limited were a regulatory lapse. And they also attach all the three plaints in this matter. I also received another letter signed by the Honorable Among Annette, saying this matter is being considered by COSASE. And she says she was writing this in consultation with the chairperson, the Honorable Abdu Katuntu, and I called the Honorable Katuntu and asked whether this letter was issued with his authority as chair, and he confirmed that it is true, that he knows about the letter and he authorized the content thereof. Honorable members, arising from the matter that was raised by the member for Bukoto South and my ruling then in the absence of information, I now wish to state as follows. You'll recall that on Thursday, 27th July 2017, Honorable Nandala Mafabi, MP Budadiri West, moved a motion for a resolution of Parliament to constitute a select committee to, among others, investigate the role of Bank of Uganda in the mismanagement of the former Crane Bank, to inquire into and assess the performance and liquidity of Bank of Uganda, to conduct the conduct of the officers of Bank of Uganda who were charged with the responsibility of carrying out routine supervision of Crane Bank, Bank of Uganda inspection reports on Crane Bank, and the action taken on the top management of Bank of Uganda, and finally the role played by Bank of Uganda top management in the Crane Bank saga. Those were the prayers of the petition. During presentation of this motion, a honorable member for Bukoto South, as I stated, raised the issue of sub judice under our Rule 64. At the time, I guided that I had not received any detailed information on the matters in court that are related to Honorable Mafabi's motion. Subsequently, however, on the 28th, as I stated, the Office of the Deputy Speaker received a letter from Governor Bank of Uganda, Mr. Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebile, Professor, in which he indicated that the proposed investigation of Parliament is sub judice insofar as it relates to matters already before court for determination in the following cases. A. High Court Civil Suit 362 of 2017, Derek Nsereko versus Bank of Uganda, filed in the High Court on the 18th July 2017, relating to the alleged mismanagement of Crane Bank Limited and the role, if any, of Bank of Uganda and or its officers. B. High Court Civil Suit number 493 of 2017, Crane Bank Limited in receivership versus Sudhir Ruparelia and Mera Investments Limited, filed on the 30th day of June 2017, dealing with whether Crane Bank Limited was mismanaged, the responsibility thereof, and the culpability of its principal shareholder. And C. High Court Civil Suit 576 of 2017, Amos Nzei and another versus Bank of Uganda, Crane Bank Limited, Sudhir Ruparelia and another, filed in High Court on the 25th day of July 2017, dealing with the question of mismanagement of Crane Bank. The letter indicated that a parallel investigation by Parliament is in the alleged mismanagement of Crane Bank Limited, and the role, if any, of Bank of Uganda and or its officers is sub judice and would prejudice a fair trial and determination of the pending cases. The issue that I now need to determine is whether it would be sub judice for Parliament to debate and investigate the affairs, circumstances, and the culpability of Bank of Uganda and all individuals involved in the management and closure of Crane Bank. Our Rule 64.1 prohibits a member from referring to any matter, any particular matter which is sub judice. That is what is known as the sub judice rule. So what is sub judice? The term sub judice literally means under judicial consideration. The sub judice rule is part of the law relating to contempt of court and independence of the judiciary. The rule governs which public statements can be made about ongoing legal proceedings before, principally, the courts. The basis for the sub judice rule is that in any legal system, it is the role of the courts to deal with the legal issues that are before it. The court's role should not be usurped by others making public statements about how these issues should be dealt with. The rule applies where court proceedings are ongoing and through all stages of appeal until the matter is completed. The rule is not limited to parties in a case or their lawyers, but applies to the public, statements by public officials, and statements made in the legislature. Although the sub judice rule is a rule of practice generally, it has been given constitutional relevance under our Article 128 of the Constitution. The sub judice rule is a facet of the independence of the judiciary and ensures that the judiciary is not interfered with in the exercise of its judicial functions. Specifically, Article 128 of the Constitution states as follows. 1. In the exercise of judicial power, the court shall be independent and shall not be subject to the control or direction of any person or authority. B. No person or authority shall interfere with the courts or judicial officers in the exercise of their judicial functions. 3. All organs and agencies of the state shall accord the court such assistance as may be required to ensure the effectiveness of the courts. And D. A person exercising judicial power shall not be liable to any action or suit for any act or omission by the person in the exercise of judicial power. So sub judice rule under our rules of procedure. Under Article 77(1) of the Constitution, Parliament is vested with powers to make laws on any matter for peace, order, development, and good governance. In the conduct of its business as provided for in the rules of procedure of Parliament, Parliament must be mindful of the provision of Rule 64.2, which defines a sub judice matter to be one which refers to active criminal or civil proceedings, which in the opinion of the Speaker, its discussion is likely to prejudice its fair determination. Specifically, on the subject of this ruling, Rule 64.3c is relevant and provides that civil proceedings are deemed to be active when arrangements for hearing, such as setting down matters for hearing, have been met, until the proceedings are ended by judgment or settlement or withdrawn. It should be noted that Rule 64.4 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament requires that a member alleging that a matter is sub judice shall provide justification to show that the sub judice, that the sub rules 2 and 3 apply. Therefore, in determining whether the matter is sub judice or not, one should be alive to the requirements of Rules 64.2 and 5 of our Rules of Procedure, specifically Rule 64.2 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament envisaged that A, the matter is active, B, the matter was instituted before a parliamentary committee or the House and it began investigations into it or open debate on it respectively, and C, the proceedings of the House or the committee will affect or have a bearing on the decisions of the presiding officer in the matter during trial, and D, the Speaker exercises discretion granted under Rule 64.5 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament judiciously. Rule 64, which captures the sub judice rule, is a constraint imposed by Parliament upon itself to ensure a reasonable balance between free speech for the parliamentarians and fair trial of a matter before court. The limitation must be carefully balanced with the need for free speech and, more importantly, the mandate or command given to Parliament to make laws under Article 79 of the Constitution. It should be noted that the question as to whether a matter is sub judice is determined by the Speaker under Rule 64.5 of the Parliamentary Rules of Procedure. That being so, the Speaker's exercise of his or her discretion granted under Rule 64.5 of the Rules of Procedures of Parliament is to be exercised judiciously. In the circumstances of the case before us, we need to examine the following: whether the investigation by Parliament will deal with the matters that are before court for determination in High Court Civil Suit 362, 2017, Derek Sereko versus Bank of Uganda, High Court Civil Suit 493 of 2017, Crane Bank Limited in receivership versus Sudhir Ruparelia and Mera Investments Limited, and in High Court Civil Suit number 576 of 2017, Amos Zay and another versus Bank of Uganda, Crane Bank Limited, Sudhir Ruparelia, and another. So, whether the alleged mismanagement of Crane Bank Limited and the role, if any, of Bank of Uganda or its officers, whether it will be affected by this investigation. 2, whether Crane Bank Limited was mismanaged, the responsibility thereof, and the culpability of the principal shareholders, whether investigation of this matter by Parliament would affect determination by the court of this particular issue, and whether Crane Bank was mismanaged, whether our investigation as Parliament would affect court's determination of this matter. Parliamentary investigation of the matter is likely. That is the question. Whether parliamentary investigation of the matter is likely to prejudice the fair determination of those matters before court. In reaching this decision, I am fortified by the decision of the Supreme Court of Appeal of South Africa in the case of Midi Television Limited versus Director of Public Prosecutions, 3 All South African Reports, page 318, wherein the 5 judges stated that the rule applies only if the prejudice only if the prejudice it might cause to the administration of justice is demonstrable and substantial, and there is a risk that the prejudice will occur. That is what we use to determine it. So in my opinion, therefore, considering all these issues, I think the matter remains within the determination of the court, and if Parliament is to determine the same matter, they will be doing the same thing which is prohibited by our rules. Way forward. From the foregoing, and mindful of the import of the sub judice rule, the raising of an objection based on the sub judice rule should not of itself tantamount to an automatic moratorium on the business of Parliament. Where such an objection is raised, the Speaker of Parliament is vested under the rules of procedure of Parliament with the power to make a determination on the same. The invocation of the sub judice rule calls for a careful balancing act of the roles played by the various organs of government so that no organ is seen to be interfering with the other, but all organs should work harmoniously to ensure that the country functions on a basis of constitutionalism. The sub judice rule is one imposed voluntarily by Parliament on itself and is exercised subject to discretion of the Speaker with the object of forestalling prejudice of proceedings in courts of law. Allegations that a given debate or proceedings of the committee will be prejudicial to the final determination of the matter must be scrutinized carefully. Having regard to the above, I find merit in the concern of sub judice raised and rule that the proposed parliamentary investigation in the affairs, circumstances, and culpability of Bank of Uganda and all individuals involved in the management and closure of Crane Bank would be sub judice. But let us keep monitoring the progress of those matters before court, and where necessary, we can review the matter. So this motion will remain on the order of business of the House as soon as we see what is court has determined its functions, and we see that there are still gaps that should be investigated by this Parliament. We will then proceed. That is my ruling on this matter. It is so determined. So that affects whether COSASE should not proceed on this particular matter. And also the motion is stayed. So the Committee on COSASE can deal with all the other issues related to Bank of Uganda, except all these issues that are related to matters that are in these 3 cases in the High Court of Uganda. Thank you. Next item. Procedure.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of procedure. Right Honourable Speaker, particularly Rule 25 that regards the procedure of business of this House. Right Honourable Speaker, before we came to this House this morning, there were screaming headlines about 18 of our gallant soldiers that were killed in Somalia. And that matter, when I saw the Minister of Defense in the House, Right Honourable Speaker, I was anxious to hear a statement from government as regards the lives of our gallant soldiers. And number 2, Right Honourable Speaker, under Article 210 of this Constitution, of our Constitution, it is Parliament that mandates the deployment of our troops outside the country, and therefore means that we ought to be informed as issues unfold wherever our sons and daughters are being deployed. But the death of over 18 of our gallant soldiers without a statement, without a moment of silence for those who are dying on our behalf, Right Honourable Speaker, I thought it was an understatement that needed clarification from government, and to request government to come up and inform the country what is the current position, whether indeed we have suffered such big casualties in Somalia, a foreign country, and what happens to the relatives and the bereaved families of those gallant soldiers, Right Honourable Speaker. So I beg and seek your indulgence that since we have government, and government is fully represented in this House, it is only deserving that as a country and as Parliament sitting here to debate on behalf of our people, we be given a position and a statement as to what exactly took place and what is the way forward out of this tragedy. And if, with your permission, Right Honourable Speaker, we deserve a moment of silence in honor and in memory of the deceased in service of their country. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Minister of Defence.
Thank you very much. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague, Honourable Sechikubo, for raising this issue, because as he correctly said, it is this Parliament acting within its powers under the Constitution which authorized the government to deploy our troops in Somalia with a view to restoring peace in that country. And I would like to inform this House, Mr. Speaker, that Uganda, UPDF, and other troop contributing countries have done a commendable job in restoring the relative peace that is in Somalia today. Relating to the incident that happened on the 30th of July, Mr. Speaker, I would like to briefly report that a joint Somali National Army and AMISOM patrol composed of UPDF under the 7th Battalion of Battle Group 20 was ambushed by Al-Shabaab terrorists.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister is reading a very, very important statement to the House, touching the lives of our gallant sons in Somalia and maybe the way forward after death. Right Honourable Speaker, the very important statement is not uploaded on the iPad, and we don't have any hard copies for our record, and really is a consumption. Are we proceeding well?
Could you, Honourable Member, show me the item on the order paper? Is it on the order paper?
Right Honourable Speaker.
He's not reading a statement. That request has been moved through a procedural issue raised by the member for Wemiyaga. The minister is making an impromptu response to it. You cannot expect it to be on the order on the iPad.
Much obliged for your ruling, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, the National Army, the Somali National Army and AMISOM patrol, comprised of about 84 soldiers, were conducting regular patrol to secure the Mogadishu-Barawe main supply route, which still harbors pockets of Al-Shabaab insurgents. They were ambushed by Al-Shabaab terrorists, and the UPDF troops fought back the ambush. They inflicted casualties on the enemy, but at the same time, we had fatalities on the side of UPDF. 12 of our soldiers were killed in action, and 7 were injured. Mr. Speaker, sir, all the dead, the 12 and injured were evacuated to Mogadishu Level 2 Hospital for management and treatment. The 12 bodies of our gallant soldiers will be flown to Uganda and received tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. The 7 injured soldiers are continuing to receive treatment at Mogadishu Level 2 Hospital. The UPDF leadership, Mr. Speaker, sir, has contacted the next of kin of the deceased and the injured to inform them of the developments while arrangements are being made to transport, as I said, the remains of the soldiers from Somalia to their places of origin for decent burial with military ceremonies and honors. Mr. Speaker, a board of inquiry under Brigadier Jack Bakasumba, the commandant of Peace Support Operations Training Center, has been constituted by the Chief of Defense Forces to establish the circumstances leading to this fateful incident. The African Union, at the same time, acting within the standard operation procedure, will also set up a board of inquiry whose findings shall form the basis for compensation of the deceased and the injured soldiers. I wish to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, sir, to extend our condolences to the families of the 12 soldiers who died defending the integrity of Somalia and indeed Africa, and also to pray for the 7 who have been injured so that they can recover and resume their duties. Thank you very much,
Procedure,
Mr. Speaker.
Speaker.
I beg to report.
Procedure.
Procedure.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to appreciate the Minister for the report. Brief report he has made. Sincerely, it's a report. And Right Honorable Speaker, 12 people who died in Amazon is not small, and the 7 who are injured really is a concern of this House. We represent the people of Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, it was yesterday that I got a call from one of the police officers whose relative died in Somalia and is not aware of the procedures. Not until the Honorable of Kwania had to tell him the procedures, how the army would conduct the burials and the rest of it. This is very important. Would it be procedurally right, Honorable Speaker, for him to give us a comprehensive report stating the 12, the names, where they hail from, so that we would know, and also the sick ones, so that we must know, and their status. Right Honorable Speaker, thank you so much.
Honorable Minister, do you have this information? Yes, let me organ.
Right Honorable Speaker, it was so perturbing when pictures were put on the web of the dead, our dead being dragged along. They're already dead, but they were torturing and disturbing the peace of the dead. So when the minister says that the 12 were already flown back, but the reports are talking of 18, we need to verify that. Then how about those bodies that were dragged along the road as they were being torturing the dead? What does this send? Where is our preparedness as a country? Remembering that even the financiers had cut off funding, it means that now Uganda is sacrificing on behalf of the entire world. Right, Honorable Speaker. Can we get clarification? How are our troops being prepared? Right, Honorable Speaker. A convoy of 24 vehicles being destroyed, and we say it was a small matter, right, Honorable Speaker. There is more than meets the eye, and that's why we wanted the government really. Today it is in the Lower Shabelle. In 2015 we lost 19 again in January, and every year, right, Honorable Speaker, such magnitude occurs to our soldiers. They are sons and brothers. They are our relatives. We have them out there. Can they be treated with fairness and understanding? They can't be here to speak for themselves. But we who are seated in this House, we must put government to account as to what exactly is going on there.
Honorable Speaker, now that the Minister of Government is trying to brief the House on what pertains in Somalia, I would have also loved the Minister to have given this House a detailed, comprehensive report.
Honorable, you rose to give information.
That's the information I'm giving the previous speaker.
Through you, Right Honorable Speaker, this is to demand that this matter is the matter for all Ugandans. These are our daughters, sons, children out there. And it's high time as a country we got to know the way forward on this. We can't be sacrificing in Central African Republic. We are sacrificing in South Sudan. We are sacrificing in Congo. And now the apparent and charitable territory of Somalia, Right Honourable Speaker. We therefore demand that government comes up with a comprehensive statement and then engage Parliament on the way forward out of this. What are the options that we have as a country? And to that extent, how can we ameliorate the lives of those who put their lives online in order to defend and protect this country? I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, from 2004, when the initial decisions were made that Somalia needed to be supported, Uganda's commitment to regional peace and security has never wavered. And that is also the commitment of our president. Regional peace and security. A brother in pain makes you also in pain. That is the reason why we approve the deployment of our troops in Somalia, and that's also what has guided deployment elsewhere. We have lost people. Even if it was one person, is still the citizen of this country. It's still the son, daughter of this country. It's still a father of some child somewhere. It's still our responsibility to account for them and handle them in the best way possible. They have died. The issues being raised are critical. But for now, can we rise for a moment to respect them?
May their souls rest in eternal peace.
Honorable Minister, please prepare for us some meaningful brief on what has happened, and then you come back, because this is not a prepared statement. Then we can engage properly on this matter, whether it is tomorrow or on Thursday. Please come with this statement. Yes, Leader of the Opposition.
Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank first the Honourable Sechikubo who has raised this matter, to which the Minister has given a statement. The Honourable Sechikubo has also asked you, Right Honourable Speaker, if you can ask government to give us a comprehensive statement, not only on our soldiers that were killed during this incident, but also on our 10-year engagement with the conflict in Somalia. Right Honourable Speaker, the mandate of this mission was to provide conducive environment for provision of humanitarian services, to create conditions for dialogue and reconciliation, to help the federal institution stabilize Somalia, and finally, for the long-term reconciliation, reconstruction, and development of Somalia. As the Minister reports about our loss, can he prepare Right Honorable Speaker, with your permission, a comprehensive statement of how far we have reached in executing this mandate of 4 points arising from the 69th resolution of the UN Security Council and also the agreement we signed, AU signed with the transitional government of Somalia in Addis Ababa in 2007 in March. Because the Honorable Speaker, yes, we are making a sacrifice, but people who have made similar sacrifices have had a cut-off point. The Americans were in Iraq, they were in Afghanistan, they left those countries worse than they found them, but time reached when they had to go and bury their dead and mourn them. I personally don't think we should continue subjecting the lives of our people. Let the Somalis settle their own conflict like we did here. I don't think we've reached a point where we will just...
Are you now debating the...
Right Honorable Speaker, so I'll stop there, just putting a request to government that they bring a statement, a comprehensive statement on our 10-year involvement in Somalia, because this parliament mandated this deployment.
Information.
Honorable members, please. I think to request the minister to come with this comprehensive statement tomorrow or on Thursday might not be possible. I think also not to lose sight of the matter raised by Lira district, that we need the names of the who have died and also the ones who are injured so the families can be alerted. Maybe we can have that immediately to tomorrow or the next day, but the comprehensive statement can then follow up later with all the complex issues that the minister can deal with. Can we leave this there for now and wait for the details from the minister and we proceed from there? Please, next item. Thank you.
Item 5, motion for adoption of the proposed amendments to the rules of procedure of Parliament of Uganda.
Chair, where were we?
Right Honorable Speaker.
Chair, before you proceed, in the public gallery this afternoon, we have students and teachers from St. Peter's Primary School, Zambia, represented by Honorable Alan Sewanyana and Honorable Dabila Sempala. They have come to observe the proceedings. Please join in welcoming them. We also have people from Soroti Parents Nursery and Primary School, represented by Honorable Ariko Habat and Honorable Angelina Osege. Please join me in welcoming them. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have students and teachers from St. John Bosco Secondary School, represented here by Honorable Right Honorable Rebecca Litwala Kadaga and Honorable Rehema Wetongola Tiuwe. Please join me in welcoming. You're welcome. Yes, Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, at the last sitting of the House considered and stood over Rule 138 because of inconsistencies in the budget timeline. The House ordered the committee to realign the timeline to the Public Finance Management Act.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I rise to seek procedural guidance on the matter before us here. Right Honourable Speaker, I'm aware that when Parliament is doing its work, most at the committee stage, members interface with the ministries and other stakeholders. But Right Honourable Speaker, the rules we are making are meant to govern the way we do our work as members of parliament. Right, Mr. Speaker, why I'm rising, the last time under rule, when we consider Rule 135, there was an amendment that brought in some issues that bind this parliament and the ministries. And right, Mr. Speaker, the committee was very, very careful when they were listing issues that should be included, because that section was relating to how the ministry should prepare the policy statements and what should be there. And the committee was very careful. They had only listed issues, that things that are found that are listed in the Public Finance Management Act. But now, we added in another issue of the issue of the loans and so on, and it was widely covered in the press, which we require the ministries to include in their policy statements. But those issues are only in our policy, in our rules of procedure. They are not in the act. Now, I am seeing a situation, right, so that's why I'm seeing this guidance, where we go to the committee room and we ask the ministry that according to our rules of procedure, you are supposed to provide this kind of information. And the ministry officers are telling you that for us, we are not bound by your rules of procedure, we are bound by the law, by an act. And according to them, in the act, they are not supposed to provide that kind of information. And then for you say, but this is parliament, and in parliament, we are guided by rules. So the procedure I'm seeking, right, Honorable Speaker, is that how are we going to navigate out of such a situation where we include, for instance, an element, something, a requirement, which is in our rules of procedure, but they're outside the armpit of the law, like Public Finance Management Act, like especially that issue of the loans and so on, because we include it in our rules of procedure, but in the act it's not there. Now, supposing we go to the committee and we say, the ministry, you must provide this because it is in our rules of procedure. But when it comes to the law, it's not there. So how do we go about this? That's the procedural guidance I'm seeking, right, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
We really took a long time to do it, but Article 94 of the Constitution. (94)(1), subject only to the provision of the Constitution. This Constitution, Parliament may make rules to regulate its procedure, including the procedure of its committees. That's what we are doing. So if we say a minister should bring this and the minister comes and says, no, it is not in the act, that minister is truly looking for trouble. Because we are acting under the authority of the Constitution to enact rules for our operation. These rules are the handmade for developing anything you want to talk about. Whether you're talking about bills, whether you're talking about a budget, whatever you're talking about. Parliament is empowered by the Constitution to determine how it will handle the business that comes before it. So please, let's do what we must to make sure that what we receive are the things that can enable us take proper decisions as a parliament. Yes, Chair?
Consequently, the committee revised Rule 137 and came up with a revised timeline that takes into account all the concerns that were raised on the floor, and also, as a result, led to amendments to rules that were not initially amended in our report, in our proposals, Rule 140, and the creation of a new rule, which I will report to as I propose the amendments.
Okay, can we proceed with 137 then? Honorable members will remember where we are on this matter. Chair, please.
Rule 138.
It is 138 now?
Yes.
Yes.
Consideration of reports on budget estimates by Parliament. Sub-Rule 1. Each sectoral committee shall consider, discuss, and review policy statements and budget estimates committed to it under Rule 137, including the budgets of public corporations and state enterprises that fall within their respective jurisdictions, and present its report to the House not later than the 20th day of April each financial year. Sub-Rule 2, the House shall consider the sectoral committee reports and refer the approved recommendations to the Budget Committee for Reconciliation, Harmonization, and Consolidation not later than the 30th day of April each financial year. Sub-Rule 3, the Budget Committee shall present its report to the House not later than the 15th day of May each financial year. Sub-Rule 4, the Committee of Supply shall consider the estimates and expenditure not later than the 20th day of May each financial year. Justification: to align the rules to the Public Finance Management Act, Section 13.
Mr. Chair, on the last one, the Committee of Supply shall consider the estimates and expenditure not later than. Considering means what? Should consider not later than 20th. What do you want it to do? Could just consider not later than? Because consideration.
Yes, we had proposed that we then, from the 20th of May, we would then have 10 days. If the committee considered the estimates not later than the 20th day of May, we would have 10 days for the House to then do supply.
So this is it a process of only consideration or also decision? This is not yet decision. Because considering is not taking a decision. I don't know. But if there's another process for adoption of the decision, of the recommendations, then it will be proper. Chair, can I pick the brain of Chair of Budget here? On 4, the Committee of Supply shall consider the estimates and expenditure not later than 20th day of May each financial year. What does consideration mean? Does it mean also deciding?
Mr. Speaker, I think we could add the Committee of Supply shall consider and approve to capture your concern.
I was just interrogating it. Is it also the date when we take the decision, or are we just bringing it to the House?
Ordinarily, that is the day when we take a decision on what we consider appropriate to be supplied for appropriation.
So, Chair, that addition, would it be proper?
Right Honorable Speaker, is there anything more?
You are the chair.
I thought the chair of the budget was clear about what happens.
But he's not the one processing the rules. So we need you to agree to it, then we move. So he's proposing that we now say the Committee of Supply shall consider and approve the estimate and expenditure not later than 20th day of May each financial year. Would that be proper, honorable members? Is that what we want to do? Yes.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Vis-a-vis the chair. What we need here is merely to put the word taking a decision. It is the time frame given within which the Committee of Supply shall consider and approve the estimates and expenditure presented under Rule 138.
Okay. Can I put the question to this? Chair, you are rising, yes?
Yes. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we rephrase Sub-Rule 4 to read, the Committee of Supply shall consider and approve the estimates and expenditure not later than the 20th day of May each financial year.
Okay, is that okay now? Honorable members, can I? Yes, Erute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wanted clarification from the Honorable Chair. In the report they had proposed under 138, sub-rule 3, that the Committee on Government Assurances shall forward to each sectoral committee pending government assurances for consideration. But now I don't hear it. What happened to that? Because it appears it's very important that the sectoral committee can keep track of promises by government.
No. I think government assurance is not part of this procedure. This is estimates and the policy statement.
Chair, it's in their report.
No, but this is what we are dealing with. You have seen. It's not to do with what the government, the assurances they have made elsewhere. It's what is in the policy and what is in the proposed estimates. That's what we are dealing with here. So we cannot start handling assurances here. Can I put the question to this amendment? Yes. Honorable members, I put the question to this. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next, Chair.
Rule 140, Committee of Supply. Amend Rule 140 as follows. Under Sub-Rule 1, delete the words "and any vote on account." Justification: vote on account is no longer envisaged under the Public Finance Management Act. Under Sub-Rule 4, delete the words "and the resultant debate shall be limited to 7 sittings, exclusive of the proposer's reply." Justification: the timings have been clearly spelled out in the revisions done to Rule 137
Procedure.
and
Can he first finish what he's raising? We have not even got what he's saying yet.
Thank you, but
Please,
it's not in the report we have.
Wait, let's have order. He has not finished proposing what is proposed. Then you raise the procedure, please.
Justification: the timings have been clearly spelled out in the revisions done to Rule 137 and 138, and this brings it to alignment with the Public Finance Management Act. Replace Sub-Rule 6. The House shall consider the annual estimates either on motions moved under paragraph B of Sub-Rule 2 or in the Committee of Supply not later than the 20th day of May each financial year.
Thank you. Yes, Erute.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm raising this procedural matter because the report that the committee submitted that we have does not actually have that provision here. From 138, they went to 146. So I cannot follow, and I think many members here also cannot follow.
No, the chairman stated that as a result of reviewing 138, they made other changes in other rules, including they are going to propose a new rule to bring out that spirit. That's what he said at his opening statement. So there is no way it could have got itself into the report there, because these are things that happened after that report was already done. Chair? So are we clear on what has been proposed by the chair? Can I put a question to it? I put the question to the amendment. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next, Chair.
Insert a new rule immediately after Rule 140 as follows. Consideration of the appropriation bill. Sub-Rule 1. The Budget Committee shall scrutinize the appropriation bill to ensure that the schedule thereto contains the allocations as appropriated by the Committee of Supply. Sub-Rule 2. The committee shall present its report not later than the 30th day of May each financial year.
To avoid the deadline of 31st. Okay, can I put the question to this amendment? Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next.
Chair,
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, we have a proposal resultant again from the amendment of Rule 138 to delete Rules 141 and 142, which actually deal with vote on account. So these rules are no longer relevant to the budgeting process, and the proposal is that they should be deleted as a consequence.
Which
141 and 142.
Honorable members, the proposal is that rules 141 and 142 be deleted because they will no longer have the situation of vote on account. Are we okay on that? Can I put the question on that? To the deletion, I put the question. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next.
Rule 146, standing committees. Under sub-rule 1 of Rule 146, replace paragraph A with the following. A, the Committee on Public Accounts, Central Government. Replace paragraph I with the following. The Committee on Public Accounts, Commissions, Statutory Authorities, and State Enterprises. Replace paragraph J with the following. The Committee on Public Accounts, Local Government. Justification. The use of Public Accounts Committee generally refers to all accountability committees handling public accounts. This nomenclature is mandate specific and easily guides the person outside Parliament on how to communicate with any of the committees.
You have another proposal there. On L, you have another proposal.
Excuse me, delete paragraph L, justification. The Committee on Science and Technology has a sector ministry, that is, Ministry of Science and Technology. It should therefore be a sectoral committee and not a standing committee.
Okay, honorable members, can I put the question to this? I put the question to this amendment. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next.
Rule 147, general functions of committees. Insert a new paragraph as follows. F, to carry out any other function as the House may assign from time to time. Justification, to allow Parliament assign its committees any work.
I put the question to that, members. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next, Chair.
Rule 148, representation on standing committees. Rule 148 is amended A, by deleting sub-rule 1. Justification, members of all committees are selected from among members of Parliament, making this rule redundant. B, in sub-rule 4, by substituting for clerk the speaker. Justification, independence should apply to the speaker, not the clerk. C, by inserting a new sub-rule immediately after sub-rule 7 as follows. Notwithstanding sub-rule 6, the Committee on Human Rights shall be chaired and deputized by independent members of parliament designated by the Speaker. Justification: human rights are inherent and due consideration should not be tagged to the politics of the day.
Yes. Do you rise as leader of opposition or Okira municipality?
I am raising as a member of this House. Mr. Speaker, I have a problem with changing the rules as regards independence to begin now dealing with the Speaker. First, the decision, because us are just designating, the final decision is taken by Parliament. How do we deal with the designation that has been made with this, by the Speaker, this Parliament? So we sit here, the Speaker has designated people, and we overturn debate and overturn that. But also from my experience, the government chief can tell you, the work of designating colleagues to committees is a difficult work. I don't think you want to burden the Speaker that every day as a member writing, now I don't want to go on this committee. Now, this is more or less clerical work. So my own view is that we leave it the way it is. Let members who are independent indicate to the clerk to Parliament their preference. The clerk usually works out the numbers and she writes to us who are whips that on this committee you have so many slots to fill. But now to begin getting the Speaker, first to take a decision, then we come to Parliament and overturn the decision of the Speaker. But also to turn the office of the Speaker into some sort of a secretariat where 70 or 60 so many MPs go, please put me on national, and where do you appeal if that has not worked? I think those who had proposed the clerk maybe had the issues I am raising in mind. Let the independent members of Parliament write to the clerk to indicate committees of their choice. The clerk can have a discussion with them, she can work out the figures, and then, because eventually what happens, us here, you call the whip to come and read the names. So we will call the Speaker to come and read the names.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to seek further clarification in terms of why did they choose specifically human rights committee other than other committees to allocate to the independence member of parliament? What criteria did you use to select human rights committee instead of other committees? That's the clarification I want to seek.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, government is charged with the responsibility of protecting the rights, defending the rights of the citizens. And in the event that in this House, Right Honourable Speaker, we have the government side and also the government in waiting. Yes, the government in waiting. Right Honourable Speaker, it would be fair for this Committee of Human Rights, which in our perspective we construe as an accountability committee, to be chaired by the alternative government. Because look at a situation, Right Honourable Speaker, that government is charged with the police, with the army, and other organs that safeguard and protect the human rights. It wouldn't be fair for example, in my view, an independent member to chair and also have an independent member deputize, and yet most of the independent members, Right Honourable Speaker, they are either leaning on the alternative government side or on the government's side. So why don't we have this committee, taken to the locus of the alternative government, Right Honorable Speaker, instead of having it, in a middle point where you cannot be clearly understood.
But just for the information of the House, accountability committees refer to those committees that handle reports of the Auditor General. That is where the term applies, not any other committee. Otherwise, all the other committees are accountability committees in different aspects of the budget, but not in the public policy cycle process, because accountability committees strictly handle issues of accountability based on what has come from the Office of the Auditor General. Please, that's for your information. Yes, I picked a member for Usuk.
Mr. Speaker, I also wanted to seek clarification from the chairperson, and I expected maybe the government chief whip would have been the first person. Under what criteria did you think of one beginning to think that that committee has been headed by a chair from the government side? Have you seen any weaknesses in terms of the performance, in terms of making the country accountable to the issues of human rights, that you think it should be given to an independent member of parliament? I needed to seek that clarification.
Yes, Obongi.
Yes,
Let's briefly, please.
I was a member of the Committee on Human Rights. And I am speaking from experience of what goes on there. The government has created institutions like a Uganda Human Rights Commission. Outside there, when any government body breaks or abuses human rights, for example, the police or the army torture people, then the Uganda Human Rights Commission say, pay them. There arises a problem because the Uganda Human Rights Committee and the police are under the supervision of the same government. In Parliament here, we need to create a difference. We see the same conflict of interest with due respect to my colleague who was our chair and then in the 9th Parliament. She's also still the chairperson now. She will be constrained in really passing or helping the committee to pass a judgment that this is an abuse of human rights. Therefore, a recommendation which is punitive to the government to be made. So therefore, Right Honourable Speaker, my consciousness tells me, if finance is important, human life is more important than even finance. If finance is not supposed to be abused and it is given in the hands of the opposition to chair the committees that take care of the accountability, what about life which cannot be recovered when it is lost? It is proper for this committee, therefore, to be under the purview of the alternative government. That is the only way we can guarantee proper scrutiny and monitoring of human rights. Otherwise, in the hands of the current arrangement, we see the chairperson lacking confidence and also suffering from conflicts of interest. People say, you are entering your own party. You are from NRM. How can you make such recommendations? Why do you speak like a member of the opposition? I see my colleague being constrained. It is not that he is incapable, but where he comes from, the loyalty, the question of adherence to the party, that's what is making her difficult. Therefore, the best thing to do is for the opposition to be the one to chair the Human Rights Committee.
Honorable members, there are now two proposals. The first one is from the chair, from the committee. They say that committee should be chaired by the independent. Now there's a proposal that it should be chaired by the opposition. The leadership should be provided by the opposition. Those are the two positions. Yes?
Mr. Speaker, I think the second proposal is that the committee is a committee deputy chairperson should be an independent. Not that the chairperson should be independent. But we have a third proposal that actually we maintain the status quo, because we have worked very well with our friends, independents. We have worked well with the opposition. Our chairperson of the Human Rights Committee, she has done a wonderful job in stating what is right and what is wrong. So there is no reason why we should now really tamper with the leadership of this committee.
Information.
I want to propose.
Information.
Honorable members, close stood over. Next. We stand over 148. Next.
Rule 153, meetings of the Committee on Appointments. Delete sub-rule 2, justification. For transparency, it is proper to have committee meetings open to the public, like in other committees, to avoid speculation of what transpires in these meetings. Insert a new sub-rule to read as follows. Sub-rule 3, the names of persons nominated for appointment by the President shall be published in a newspaper having the widest coverage. Justification. Since the proceedings are going to be open, this will be noticed to the public.
Honorable members, can I? Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I need to be helped, maybe by the chairperson, if the Minister for Finance can. The practice here has been for the Appointments Committee to take decisions on behalf of Parliament. I have never read any report of the Appointments Committee, at least for the time I have been in this Parliament. So I want to seek clarification why the chairperson of the Committee on Rules still think that transparency is in only opening up proceedings, but also and not in the committee reporting to Parliament, because the committee makes a decision on our behalf. And I have had a problem, at least at a personal level, of committees of Parliament making decisions on behalf of Parliament. And you hear them making a declaration that as a committee we have ordered this and this. Maybe if you have the Appointments Committee conducting proceedings the way it does, maybe even other committees will now begin making decisions on behalf of Parliament. I don't know whether it is in the rules that we have passed that decisions of the Appointments Committee are taken as decisions of Parliament.
Majumani?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I am not supporting this proposal, but I am for the status quo. Right Honorable Speaker, therefore I need some justification from the chair of the committee on as to why they want these changes, because I've never seen any problem attributed with the status quo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I am a member of the Appointments Committee, and I want to support the proposal by the chair that whatever happens in the Appointments Committee should be open, because we have had a challenge where people have petitions, for example, but they never know how we handle them, we never get back to them, and for me, really that is not fair. But two, just the other day we were visiting the Appointments Committee in Kenya, and they make a report, bring it to Parliament, and it is Parliament that approves. For me, I would really want that we add that in addition to making it public, the Appointments Committee makes a report which is tabled in Parliament, and then Parliament approves.
Musongora. No.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, Parliament, and specifically this Parliament, is the People's Parliament. And we are representatives of the people. And we should account to the people. Right Honorable Speaker, for the time I've been here, whenever there are nominations which are done, and possibly these nominees appear before the committee on appointments, you normally find some other people not comfortable, especially when there are rumors that are peddled, Right Honorable Speaker. When something is closed, some people may peddle rumors, and those rumors may be believed to be true, especially on issues that some peddling of rumors, like, maybe that committee is not going to be transparent, it's not going to be accountable to the people, and especially in the past, Right Honorable Speaker, there has been some even allegations of some form of bribery. And when we make it open, Right Honorable Speaker, it will help to cushion this committee and have it open, and people will get there, we shall get there whether we are members or not, and this one will help the committee to function in a fair and transparent manner, so that any form of allegation can be cleared by any member of this House. But for as long as it remains closed to only the members of that committee, any rumor that will be peddled will be treated as truth. So, Right Honorable Speaker, it's better for us as a parliament not to have any gap, to create any gap where speculation will be made, and which speculation may be detrimental to the image of Parliament. I want to support the committee that actually we have this committee open, and also bring the report here, and we handle it as Parliament.
Bukoli Central.
Thank you. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to actually support the status quo and disagree with the committee. Right Honorable Speaker, the Appointments Committee handles sensitive documents of members of the Republic of Uganda, and all of us are prone one time to go to the Appointments Committee. It would be very unfair for everything of every member to be laid on table in the media and done in the open. I support the fact, the status quo, that the proceedings of the Appointments Committee be closed, because we trust the people who actually sit on the Appointments Committee, chaired by the Speaker. I don't think there is anything wrong that can go on in the Appointments Committee, but putting members, things, information, Honorable Kakoza, information.
Point of order.
Right Honorable Speaker, the approval of the Vice President and the Prime Minister is done by this House. And when the President dies, or should anything happen to him, the Vice President takes over the office of the President. I don't know of any more sensitive appointment than the one who will take over the presidency when the President dies. Is the Honorable Member therefore in order to suggest that the appointment and the approval process of the Vice President, which is done by this Parliament, is not sensitive, or in a way impute that when this whole Parliament is seated, it cannot handle sensitive issues?
Honorable Member, sensitivity is very personal. There is no way you can put a general criteria that this is sensitive, this is not sensitive. It depends on the individual. To that particular member of Bukoli Central, that matter is extremely sensitive. To the member for Kira municipality, it is not sensitive at all. So I cannot rule him out of order on that. Please wind up.
I was giving information. Right Honorable Speaker, if you look, I remember, I have institutional memory why this committee was made private. If we bowl a leaf in public service, they do conduct interviews in privacy. Why? Because you are going to serve the public. I can imagine if somebody comes here, they talk about him or her, she goes through, and you who is going to seek that service, you've talked ill of that person and is in the office. Will you get a fair justice? You won't. This person who is going to that office is a public office. And that's why they leave that right for privacy. Even in the Constitution, check Article 27. It says any person must be given a right to privacy. You subject him to public, he goes through, then what will happen? Because the public office is a public good, but you come here, you talk here against him or her, you go in the office, and that's why the genesis of public interviews are held in privacy.
Rule 153 stood over. Next.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I would like to inform the Leader of Opposition.
Proceed to the next.
The reporting.
Next, that one is stood over.
Okay.
Next.
Rule 161, Composition and Functions of the Committee on Budget. Replace Sub-Rule 3 as follows. New Sub-Rule 3. The functions of the Budget Committee shall be A. To examine and recommend to Parliament for approval of the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. B. To consider and recommend on any request by the Minister for deviations from the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. C. To consider the appropriation bill based on the decisions of the Committee of Supply. D. To examine the budget framework paper and report to the House. E. To scrutinize the proposed annual budget, ministerial policy statements, supplementary expenditure requests, sectoral committee reports, and report to the House. F. To scrutinize and advise Parliament on the certificate of compliance of the annual budget to the National Development Plan and the certificate on gender and equity responsiveness under Section 13 of the Public Finance Management Act. G. To review proposals, monitor operations, and report on the contingency fund. H. To review and advise Parliament on the reports submitted by the Minister to Parliament on fiscal performance and the economy provided under Section 18 of the Public Finance Management Act. I. To scrutinize the annual performance of the multi-year commitments report. J. To scrutinize and advise Parliament on the budgets of the public corporations and state enterprises submitted under Section 13, subsection 11F of the Public Finance Management Act. K. To ensure compliance with the budget calendar provided in Appendix H. L. To consider the national budget, compile amendments, and report to the House. And M, to carry out such other functions relating to the national budget as may be assigned to it by the House. Justification: to align the rules to Section 5, 9, 13, and 18 of the Public Finance Management Act under the sections identified.
Just a slight correction, then I open up. Honorable Chair, in E, ministerial policy statements, is it what the budget committee should be doing? In E, you say proposed annual budget, ministerial policy statements. Is it supposed to do that, budget committee? And then in G, the word is, the fund is called contingencies fund, not contingency. Under Article 175 of the Constitution. Is it 175 or 157? 157. 157. It's contingencies fund, not contingency fund. 157. Yes, Kabula.
Chair, I remember when we were debating the Public Finance Management Act, we didn't repeal the Budget Act, and which is on record. Why don't we remove Section 21 and we put it under that rule? Under that rule are the functions of the Budget Act. Because the Budget Act says the functions of the Budget Act, of the Budget Committee, will provide budget-related information to all committees in relation to their jurisdiction. Submit reports on, but not limited to, economic forecasts, budget projection, and options for reducing the budget deficit. Identify and recommend on bills that provide increase or decrease in the revenue and the budget. Prepare analytic studies of specific subjects such as financial risks proposed by government-sponsored enterprises and finance policy, and also E, generally give advice to Parliament and its committee on the budget and the national economy. And if you look at the spirit of the Budget Act in 2001, which was brought and passed in 2003, that was the basis which brought the Budget Committee to be in rules. I think it will be better that we get Section 21 the Budget Act, since it was not removed, it was not repealed, and we insert it there, instead of going into policies and other sectors.
But you see, for example, the Budget Act never had the budget framework paper. Did it have? So by lifting, you would be missing out on the new situation that has been elaborated by the Public Finance Management Act.
Right, Honorable Speaker, Section 13 of the Public Finance Management Act, it says the budget framework work paper. But here, in Rule 161, it says the functions of the Budget Committee.
Yeah, but here they are proposing that it should also scrutinize the budget framework paper, which was not in the Budget Act because that term was not there.
We can add, maybe, but not all what the policy says, because they are, since the law is still in place.
Chair, Busongora, then Chair.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I have an issue with the conflicting function, especially the Committee on Budget, to do with A, where they will be examining and recommending to Parliament to approve a Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. B, consider and recommend any request by the Minister. C, to consider the appropriation bill. And then D, Right Honourable Speaker, to examine the budget framework paper. But when you come to H, they are again saying the same committee will review and advise Parliament on the reports submitted by the Minister to Parliament on fiscal performance and the economy provided under Section 18. Right Honorable Speaker, I feel that since they have the preserve of function A, B, C, D, and others, the review, it would be better for the review to be done by another committee, not necessarily the budget committee. Because, Right Honorable Speaker, in principle, you can't consider something and then review yourself. I feel that this would better go to the Committee on National Economy, so that the Committee on National Economy reviews what the Budget Committee has actually considered and presented to Parliament.
Yes, Kumi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I am very uncomfortable with, I think, B, which requests the Budget Committee to approve the Minister to deviate from the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. First of all, when the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is approved, it forms a guide for which the Minister now operates. For the committee again to come and allow the Minister to break the law, I think it's a little bit appalling. Right Honorable Speaker, I would maintain, I would want that once the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is approved and provides a guidance for the Minister, let the Minister go do his things, and then he's held accountable for why he deviated from the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. Thank you.
You think there'll be no necessity to deviate? Kinkizi?
Thank you, Right Honourable
West?
Speaker. I am of the same view that the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is a framework that guides the budgeting, and therefore it is not proper that the committee allows the minister to deviate from the principle he has set from the beginning, which shows the guideline of the nation. 2, E scrutinize the proposed annual budget, ministerial policy statements, supplementary expenditures requested the sector committees. Mr. Speaker, is the budget going to look into the ministerial statements of every sector? What about the sector committees? Thank you.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, it would have been good if the members had acquainted themselves with the sections I have quoted. Because Section 7, for example, of the Public Finance Management Act specifically states deviations from objectives of the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. So these are not recommendations based on what the committee feels is proper, but an alignment of our rules with what the Public Finance Management Act actually allows the minister to do. It is not from the committee.
Chair.
Patient.
Chair.
The rule.
Padiere.
I think, Chair, I could not have put it better than what the Chair had said. Because when you look at Section 7, it says the minister may, with approval of Parliament, deviate from the objectives in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. May. That power is already granted to the minister. But we're saying, if you want to deviate, we may not constitute ourselves as the whole Parliament. The Budget Committee should take over. I think I see nothing wrong in it. With it. That should be read with actually 13. When you look at Section 13 of the Public Finance Act on annual budget preparation, approval, and management. And then you have Section 6, the annual budget shall be consistent with the National Development Plan, the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility, and the Budget Framework Paper. In a nutshell, Right Honourable Speaker, what the committee in their proposal have done, they have done very due diligence to go through the Public Finance Management Act and try to see where they can, as much as possible, expand on the duties of the Budget Committee, so that we are not only looking at the former one was, Chair, sorry, just a minute. The former provision was only giving us about 3 responsibilities. I mean the budget committee, 3 responsibilities. But with the change in the law, just like you're rightly asked, even the Budget Act that Honorable Kakoza was talking about did not include the budget framework paper. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to propose is that I am very okay with all the amendments that are proposed. My only problem is with section 15 of the Public Finance Management Act on how do you commit the budget, which I am seeing that is very difficult to bring it under the rules. I was going to propose that the budget committee should be mandated to commit the national budget, because if we leave it, but I'm tied because under the national, under the Public Finance Act, that mandate is given under section 15 of the National Finance Act. The Public Finance Act has been given to the Secretary of the Treasury. Right, Honorable Speaker, the danger here is when we leave it to the Secretary of the Treasury, which I think one day I will bring a proposal on the Act. The danger is that sometimes between committing, when we pass the budget, and of course writing a commitment or a note to commit the national budget based on the cash flow, the Secretary of the Treasury tends to take long. And you know the budget is purely our property. Right, Honorable Speaker. And I think in the near future we will also propose that even our clerk to Parliament must be a secretary to the Treasury for the purposes of the monies which are meant for Parliament. The same will go to even the judiciary, just like in Kenya, so that when we commit, we don't have a dilly-dallying game where you have to first to delay even Parliament and all the 3 arms of government in operations. That is a little bit far-fetched, but it's to put the House on note that one day, or notice that one day we'll have to bring that amendment. Thank you.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Why I do support the status quo. The spirit of the budget committee and how it functions, it cannot be mixed up with the government itself. Because your work to do it is you check what has been brought by government, whether it's frauding the law. And that's why the Budget Act, section 20, is in tandem with the rules. Because the work it's supposed to do is to verify that these guys who are bringing the policies, are they in tandem with the law? That's why the Budget Act is still in tandem with the rules, which are correct. Because the moment you say that government, we are supposed to check what government brings, whether they're in tandem with the law. So you cannot say, I will do the role of executive. No. I have to do my work to check them, whether what they are brought is with the fiscal responsibility charter, they are not flouting the law. And that's the function of the budget committee. The rule you are amending, they are telling us the function, what the budget committee should do. That's why I support the status quo as it is in the rules.
Soroti, municipality.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to rise here and move the House on a slight amendment under Rule 161, subsection H. The committee proposes as such, and I quote, to review and advise Parliament on the report submitted by the Minister to Parliament on physical performance and the economy provided under Section 18 of the Public Finance Management Act. Right Honorable Speaker, we also know that under Rule 166, under Sub-Rule 2D, the role of the Committee on National Economy is to assess the national performance of the economy. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to request that the import of the word the economy under 161H should be deleted so that we don't render the Committee of National Economy non-functional. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair.
Mr. Speaker, the term fiscal performance is largely on matters relating to revenue and expenditure. And in fact, before we come up with any recommendations, we want to examine how the government performed in terms of revenue and the expenditure that was approved by this parliament. It is on that basis that it's now a requirement that we have these periodic reports on the performance of the budget. This is largely about the performance of the budget. And the performance of the budget is in the context of the performance of the overall economy. So that is why you cannot dismiss the term economy. When you go to 166, then you talk about the Committee on National Economy. That will talk about the broader economy, not necessarily about the budget performance alone, covering the private sector, the public sector, and all other institutions. So there is no conflict whatsoever. And Section 18 of the Public Finance Management Act is very clear on what is envisaged under fiscal performance.
Clarification. You didn't want to, since you are explaining. Mr. Speaker, the matter that I come back on the floor on.
Procedure.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. There is something important I might raise. I don't know whether it's procedurally right. When you are discussing something, then a member of parliament goes out and carries out a press conference, diluting everything we are discussing here. Honorable, no.
Honorable member.
A honorable member from Nakaseki is just outside telling you on radio that the soldiers who are dying in Somalia are dying on behalf of Mr. Museveni, and that he's the one benefiting from who are dying. And we are discussing here, and at the same time, he's carrying it out. I mean, is there no law here? This is a man who says that even the number we are talking about is fake. Many people are dying, and Museveni is benefiting. I want to know really, is it in order for these things to be carried out like this? I want advice.
Order. Press it down.
I said this is procedure.
Order.
Point of order.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I feel very uncomfortable to order my brother at this point. We are discussing the matter of amendment of the rules of procedure of this House, and that's the subject matter of debate. And I don't see how a matter or a business being conducted outside this House can become relevant to the discussion on the amendment of the rules of procedure. So right, Honorable Speaker, is the honorable member, who also happens to be my brother, in order to be diversionary, diverting the mind of the members of parliament who are focusing on the amendment of the law, to make them think of things outside parliament. And they may even now start engaging, thinking of things happening in their homes and on the streets, when actually they should be legislating. Is he in order?
Honorable members, we have rules on interruption of debate, and those rules are there. You either interrupt debate because of a point of order, point of procedure, or you want to give information. But there is also a point of privilege. If something threatens the privilege of the House, you can raise that matter as a point of privilege. So I don't know which one the honorable member or Pecos Kutesa was raising, but we'll deal with that matter separately. We'll see how to address that. The Parliamentary Commission will deal with that issue. Yes, Honorable.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rose up in reply to the explanation given by the chairperson of the Budget Committee. Mr. Speaker, the wisdom of Parliament to provide for two committees, one responsible for national economy and another for budget, cannot in any way be set aside. Mr. Speaker, yes indeed, as he explains, that the elements of physical performance point to issues of the national budget. But I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the economy is broader than the budget, because the economy includes all aspects there too. Mr. Speaker, if we left that amendment as it is, the key element of the Committee of National Economy, which is the one to assess the performance of the economy, will seriously be diluted. Otherwise, how would two committees of budget as well as that of the national economy all assess the performance of the national economy? It will be difficult to report on the same issue to two different committees of parliament. Mr. Speaker, my view is that the aspect of including economy under subsection H should be deleted. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clarification? Clarification. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and my honorable colleague. The word economy seems to be taken in isolation of other factors of the broader performance of the activities of the government. Because I'm a member of the Finance Committee. When I'm a member of the Finance Committee, I talk about economy. I'm a member of budget. I talk about economy. You are a member of the Economy Committee. You talk about economy. Which one should, are you trying to say that other committees should not talk about economy and is only a preserve of the Economy Committee? Can you clarify whether other committees which are dealing with the performance of the government should not talk about economy? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honorable member for seeking a clarification. Mr. Speaker, the basic tenets is for a member to simply understand the import of the word economy. Economy is a broader concept that aggregates all the elements of the country that are geared towards enhancing growth. Mr. Speaker, however, in the rules, the use of the terminology economy refers to the aggregate element, not simply a subset. I want to find out from my honorable colleagues, why is it difficult then, if you believe that when you talk about the budget, you're talking about economy, when you talk about finance, you're talking about economy, why is it difficult for you to have subsection H be amended so that we delete the word economy, which is provided for under another committee of this House? After all, reports of all these committees will be debated on this floor. Then it will be possible for all of us to make an input to it. Thank you.
What does Section 18 of the Public Finance Management Act say? Section 18 on this matter, because there's a cross-reference there.
Right Honorable Speaker, in the view of the committee, what is really controlling in H is not the word economy, but rather fiscal performance, which to the committee refers to the budget. It's not that we are handing over the monitoring of the entire economy, but the fiscal performance of the economy. This is the only part of...
Clarification, Chair. Chair, I think you are mixing up things. If you are amending Rule 161, you are talking of the functions of the Budget Committee. Section 18 is talking about reporting on fiscal performance. The minister shall. This is different from the functions of the Budget Committee in the law. Because the law as it stands now, it highlights the functions of the Budget Committee. So if you bring this Section 18, it's different from the functions of the Budget Committee. Unless you say otherwise, that the Budget Committee you want to perform the roles of the executive.
No, but Honorable Member, that's not what is being said in H.
Because
H is saying exactly what you have read in the Act.
No, it's right, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, it is. Read it again. Read what is in H. The proposed H. And then read the Act.
In 18, there is no H, according to the Public Finance Management Act.
No, I'm talking about the proposal in H in relation to Section 18.
In the rules, under 161, the function of the Budget Committee shall be 2. We don't have, it's proposing new ones.
Yes, the proposed one.
The proposed ones are picked from different sections with different objectives. Because he picked from 5. Section 5 of the Public Finance Management Act.
Honorable Kakoza, the cross-reference in H is Section 18 of the Public Finance Management Act.
I beg he reads it, if he has.
No, you have just read it and it is in consonance with what was proposed.
It's not there. I don't know where he got it from. The Public Finance Management Act, I have it. Let him read the H.
Information, Honorable Kakoza. I think, Mr. Speaker, Section 18 of the Public Finance Management Act says that the minister shall, by the end of February and October of each financial year, make a report to Parliament on the current and projected state of the economy, the performance of government against objectives of the fiscal charter, of the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility, financial and non-financial performance of annual budget, the contingencies fund, and the payment made under Section 22, the performance of the petroleum fund, donations made to a vote, if any, the report made under Section 1 shall indicate and so on. I think the economy that they are talking about, Mr. Speaker, it is difficult to speak about the budget and don't talk about the economy, but for the sake of progress, I don't find any problem if we left out the economy, but I think you cannot talk about the budget without talking about the entire economy. It's very difficult. So
Honorable members, I don't know where these issues are coming from. H is simply saying to review and advise Parliament on the report submitted by the Minister to Parliament on physical performance and the economy, which is in the Act. So what is the confusion? Because the Act says that report will be submitted to Parliament.
Mr. Speaker.
Please, let's not import confusion where there should be none at all. The section of the Act says the minister will submit the report on physical performance and the economy. Okay? Yes, that's what it says. Now, they are giving this responsibility to review this report to the Budget Committee. The report submitted by the minister. Because the content of the report submitted by the minister under Section 18 is on physical performance and the economy. So they're saying it should be the Budget Committee to review this. If you want to remove this responsibility from the Budget Committee, that is another matter. But you cannot just say remove the economy. You will have to remove, because the entire report is not just the economy. The report is on fiscal performance and the economy.
Mr. Speaker, with due respect, I cannot challenge your guidance. But Mr. Speaker, in the strict listenership of what the Honorable Minister was reading, indeed, he pointed various facets that are within the element of the economy. But the word the economy was not strictly mentioned. Mr. Speaker, you know matters of people that know the law. I am not a lawyer myself. But when we leave it as it is, tomorrow, the Committee of National Economy, in attempting to exercise this function, would be relevant, or it will be rendered irrelevant, and as far as this particular function is concerned. And Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Chairperson of the Committee on Rules and the Honorable Minister have actually graciously accepted that we can drop that element. And it is in good faith. We don't want to import confusion, but we only want to see that we leave all the organs of the House able to perform in their full capacity. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
So the proposal is that that aspect of current and projected state of the economy should not be for the budget committee. Is that what you are saying?
Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Please let us understand this, because that's what the Act says. The minister shall, by the end of February and October of each financial year, make a report to Parliament on A, the current and projected state of the economy. So that is the economy. So are you saying this should be removed, should not be the budget committee to do this, it should be another committee? Because the proposal is that these issues be handled by the budget committee. This report should be scrutinized and reviewed by the budget committee. That's what is being proposed. The economy is right there in A.
Honorable Speaker, sir. Speaker, sir.
Yes, Obongi.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right, Honorable Speaker, economic performance and fiscal performance are different things. You can have a good economy without having money by the government to spend for the programs of the government.
Honorable members,
so for me, I say that...
Please assist the House. Which committee should review A, the report on the current and projected state of the economy? Which committee of Parliament should review that report?
Here, in respect to the budgeting process, it should be the budget committee, because the budget cannot be made, as you said earlier, without any reference to the economy. And still my point which I was bringing at the beginning was, the economy of the country could be doing very well. But the coffers of government, the consolidated fund will not be doing very well. This is the fiscal aspect of the government, the financing of it. So when the minister brings a report here and makes reference to the economy, I think it doesn't make any crime. And even it doesn't deny the Committee on National Economy the right to talk about the economy. I think this should be where the problem is. The Committee on National Economy can talk about the economy generally. But in this aspect where the issue is about budget, let the budget committee also talk about the budget in relation to the economy. There's no crime there.
Mr. Speaker.
That's how it's...
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
I think
I'm the one on the floor.
it's more clear that actually the budget committee must take charge of the report on the performance, okay, of the economy as enshrined under 18. Now this clears what Honorable Kakoza is trying to argue. Honorable Kakoza is trying to say that it is not the mandate of Parliament, okay, to come up with a report on the performance of the economy as enshrined under 18. We are saying no. As soon as the minister, it is the mandate of the minister, as soon as the minister brings a report here, for us to internalize and go to the depth of the issues, the facts, we must push it to the budget committee. And the budget committee, therefore, will report to Parliament. I think budget committee is right. It's not the other committee on the national economy. Thank you very much.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Before my senior comes, I just want to put this clear, Right, Honorable Speaker. that we have three committees which almost have related functions. The Committee on Finance, Committee on National Economy, and the Budget Committee. And Right Honorable Speaker, this Parliament must handle the functions of each of these committees carefully, or else we risk getting conflicting reports from the different committees of Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker, I have put this clear, that the Budget Committee, in the circumstance that they are the ones who actually consider and recommend the request by the minister, it would be fair for another committee, for a different committee, to be the one to review what actually they presented. But you cannot consider and commend a request, Right Honorable Speaker, and be the same person to review. It may not come out clearly. How would you review yourself?
Right Honorable Speaker.
Right Honorable Speaker, I think we have a problem here, and maybe the chair will have to clarify on this. I think we are confusing the monetary aspect of the economy and the physical aspect of the economy. This is what I'm thinking. In my mind, these are two separate spheres of the economy. Now, when you look at the budget, the functions of the Budget Committee, the Budget Committee is more or less supervisory. How is the budget performing? We gave you money. How has it performed? And it's very important that the minister must report to Parliament, and Parliament mandates the Budget Committee to scrutinize how did they perform with respect to the budget. And that to me is appropriate in as far as physical supervision is concerned. Now, when you go back to the role of the national economy, they are more concerned with the monetary aspect of the economy. They have to look at the inflation, they have to look at the macro, whatever it is. They have to look at the inflation, they have to look at the debts, they have to look at all those aspects, and it's a big aspect. So I don't think there are contradictions here. Maybe I'm the one professional who is not understanding, but I don't see contradictions. All we need to do is to analyze the role of the national economy and the role of the Budget Committee. But above all, Right Honorable Speaker, we have to understand that at the end of the day, according to the mandate that you have given the Budget Committee by the law, the Budget Committee is allowed to scrutinize all the papers of all the sectors through these various committees, including the Committee on the Economy. So the Committee on the Economy, whatever they are doing, will have to be subject to scrutiny by the Budget Committee. So I don't, it is, they have to, you scrutinize, but when it comes to budget allocation, you have to come to the Budget Committee. And that's why we had a problem with the Minister of Finance not coming to the Budget Committee to clarify some details which we wanted. So, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Cecilia, you see, the spirit of budget committees is to deal with the figures and the sectors of the money allocated. And the way you supervise and you appropriate gives you a basis that the next financial year, you know somebody who has performed better and who has performed wrong. That's why the law, the rule says, all chairpersons of committees must come to the Budget Committee.
You see, honorable members, none of you is assisting the House. The question is Section 18, reporting on physical performance. Which committee should handle this report? So then what are we debating? Here, Section 18, reporting on physical performance. 1, the minister shall, by the end of February and October of each financial year, make a report to Parliament on A, the current and projected state of the economy, B, C, D, and then 2. The report made under subsection 1 shall indicate A, the macroeconomic and physical forecast in the annual budget, and all those things are there. Now the question is, which committee should handle this report, which is going to be presented by the Minister to Parliament under section 18? Which committee? Let's not split it. The issue is one report. Which committee should handle it?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. You have guided very well. Right Honorable Speaker, as I concede, I want to request, Right Honorable Speaker, that we import the words as provided for in the Act, so that, Honorable colleague from Padiere, it is not exactly that. I am schooled a little bit in the English language. I have also read. Let's take the way the Right Honorable Speaker has read it to us. Yes, that is it, Right Honorable Speaker. I request that we take the words the way you have read from the Act, not in the current drafting, which is in the proposal. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to request.
Information.
Mr. Speaker, for record purpose.
Yes, yes.
Information
Mr. Speaker,
to who,
for record
Honorable
purpose.
Karwanga?
Yes.
On information to who? Because there is no member holding the floor.
No, clarification. Clarification,
Mr. Speaker.
Okay, let's have Bulisa. Maybe you'll have your point through Bulisa.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I thought it should be on record that this Parliament has a budget office, a fully fledged department. I thought it should be put on record that Parliament does not have to, apart from the report coming from the Minister, Parliament has a department which can help the Committee of Economy, Committee of Budget, to also, for example, the national economy, to present the state of economy without waiting for the ministerial's report. And why I'm raising this, the debate was sounding as if the one committee is superior to the other, or as if there is a hegemony between these committees, and I think that is misleading. These committees are mutually reinforcing, and there is no watertight that you end here and this begins there. If we agree on that, you will also appreciate that when the budget committee and finance are looking for deficit financing, the National Economic Committee comes in to scrutinize the loan funding, which is also a budget function. So these committees should not be debated as if one can work, one stops here and one begins there. So I thought it's very important that we do everything possible not to cause committees as if they are mutually exclusive. They are actually mutually reinforcing, and we should also be mindful of the budget office role, which is there and helps Parliament in doing its function. Mr. Speaker, I thought this was very important.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the clarification I wanted to share with the honorable colleagues, or the information for that matter. Under Section 19 of the Budget Act, the committee shall A, and that's 19.2A, focus on the preliminary estimates and the macroeconomic plan and programs and submit recommendations to the Speaker. B, consider the national budget and compile amendments and refer to them the relevant committees. And then C, carry on such other functions relating to the budget as may be assigned to it by Parliament under this Act or any other law in force. Mr. Speaker, when you look at particularly A, it speaks to the macroeconomic plan reporting, and it is specifically referring to the budget committee. So I think looking at this law, the Public Finance Management Act that you read to us, particularly Section 18, this matter largely is already well settled in the law. So our rules can only help in the enforcement of the law. And so I think this should, yeah.
Honorable members in the public galleries, we have students from Africa Secondary School, Mutundwe, represented by Honorable Sempala Chigozi Emmanuel and Honorable Rosemary Nansubuga Seninde. They have come to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. You're welcome. Can I put the question? Amendment.
Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, E of the amendment that we are considering, which one? E. You have to scrutinize the proposed annual budget and harmonize recommendations of the House on the sector, on the reports of ministerial policy statements. Because the ministerial policy statements are considered by the sectoral committees, so the budget can only harmonize the recommendations of the House on those reports.
I think it's okay. And then the one on the contingencies fund? Chair, budget?
Mr. Speaker, there is a concern here. You recall when we are discussing the roadmap, we received the annual budget somewhere, was it 1st April? And then the ministerial policy statements earlier than that. Now, you cannot divorce the consideration of the annual budget estimates from the various ministerial policy statements. Because these ministerial policy statements contain numbers on the various votes. And you remember we are talking about scrutinizing. So we have to scrutinize the figures in the policy statements alongside the figures in the annual budget estimates to come up with a harmonious position on the numbers. And in fact, this is when committees come to the budget committee and we inform them that the figures are not in harmony. We have done that. And what we do later is to consult with the Minister of Finance to agree on the final numbers. So the issue of scrutinizing these numbers, I think we cannot run away from, because we are looking at the overall picture of all the policy statements, harmonizing them with the national with the annual estimates. I do not see a problem. We have already defined the role of the sectoral committees with regard to ministerial policy statements. This one is talking about scrutinizing, the scrutiny, that scrutiny, whatever word. We are talking about scrutinizing the figures, the issues in there to make sure that the two are compatible. And that's what this is talking about.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and the Honorable Member, for yielding the floor. Have you found any challenges with the way you have been working as the Budget Committee to use the ministerial policy statements as working documents? Because now what is proposed would mean that when the ministers table the ministerial policy statements, they are sent to the Budget Committee. Now, don't you think there would be a conflict between now the Budget Committee and the sectoral committees which superintend over the sectors and they scrutinize the figures? So I would suggest that we buy what Honorable Bahati is suggesting, that the responsibility of looking at the policy statements remains with the sectoral committees, and then they will make a report to the Budget Committee, but you can use the policy statements as you do your work. Otherwise, if we say the Budget Committee scrutinizes, it would mean the Speaker we'll have to send the ministerial policy statements to the budget committee, which may cause some disharmony.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker. My feeling is that the proposal from the minister does not dilute the scrutiny function of the budget, because it clearly, of the budget committee, clearly states here that the budget committee scrutinizes the proposed annual budget, and then the budget committee practically right now harmonizes the reports of the various sector committees. So we don't scrutinize the ministerial policy statements, but we do look at the reports from the various sector committees and we harmonize them. So I think the proposal brought by the minister should be looked at, because I think that is practically what happens, and I don't see much contradiction there.
Yes, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to support the proposal of the minister that even the budget committee does not have the capacity to scrutinize the ministerial policy statements. Remember that the sectoral committees are the ones that have been following up on or monitoring, carrying out field visits, and these are the things that are then reported in the ministerial policy statements with their new proposals of the direction they want to take. So I'm just wondering how now the budget committee will come and monitor, based on the ministerial policy statement, the outputs that have been reported by the ministries. It is not going to happen. So I really support that the ministerial policy statements be left out, and then the sectoral committees who have membership to the budget committee can then provide the linkage.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to concede to the amendment proposed by the Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, can you now state it properly for the record and we take a vote on it? Okay, Chair, since you're in charge.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. So we propose that we rephrase E of sub-rule 3 to read, to scrutinize the proposed annual budget, recommendations of the House on sectoral reports of ministerial policy statements, supplementary expenditure requests, sectoral committee reports, and report to the House. And in G, to review proposals, monitor operations, and report on the contingencies fund, not contingency, contingencies fund.
Yes.
Honorable Chair, I thought I could help my Honorable Chair, because really he's tired. I must appreciate he has done a commendable job. But we are suggesting that we say that to scrutinize and harmonize the proposed annual budget, ministerial policy statements, supplementary expenditure requests, sectoral committee reports, and report to the House. So immediately after scrutinize,
I think the leadership of the committee is getting tired.
Right Honorable Speaker, just for the record, the chair is not tired. The chair is human.
Mr. Speaker and colleagues, I'd propose that the amendment reads as follows: to scrutinize the proposed annual budget and harmonize recommendations of the House on the reports of the sectoral committees on ministerial policy statements.
Is that clear now? Can I put the question to that? That particular one? Huh? And what happened to the other issue of supplementary and all those other things? They're already there? Okay. Can I put the question, that specific amendment? Will those in favor say to the contrary? No? The ayes have it. Now the whole rule as presented by the chair. Can I put the question to that, Chair? Honorable members, to the amendment in now to adopt Rule 161 as amended. I put the question to that. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Thank you. Next.
Rule 162.
Chair, yes, proceed.
Composition and functions of the Public Accounts Committee. In sub-rule 3, replace clerk with speaker. Justification: it is the speaker and not the clerk who determines admissibility of papers and documents in the House. Insert a new sub-rule as follows. Sub-rule 4, the speaker shall cause the report to be laid in the House by a member of the Commission. Justification: to provide for the laying of the reports of the Auditor General.
Is that clear? Can I put the question that? Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it.
Rule 166. Functions of the committee.
Yes. Which one? Which?
Rule 162.
Hey.
He just talked about sub-rule 3. But Right Honorable Speaker, I think sub-rule 4 of that same Rule 162 is redundant. After the amendment, sub-rule 4 says the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report under sub-rule 3, lay the report on the table. Now, if we have amended sub-rule 3, then sub-rule 4 falls through. It shouldn't be part of our rules of procedure. It becomes redundant.
The amendment in 3 is talking about admissibility. Whether it can be brought or not. It's on admissibility. Not on putting it on the... Because there's a process. And I'm actually wondering whether it is... Anyway, let's proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, just a
Yes.
minute. Yes, it is on admissibility, but if you read sub-rule 4, it is not the chairperson that lays the Auditor General's report on the table.
Isn't that what we have been doing?
No. It has been proposed, this new sub-rule has been proposed, which is making it clear. So then sub-rule 4 becomes redundant, in my opinion. The content of sub-rule 4 is now what the new sub-rule 4 is going to be, done by the Commission, laying of the report on the table. Probably we could provide how it goes now to the committee, and then the committee processes and brings
correct,
a report.
That's correct. That's correct. I've not seen that one of the new amendment. Shall cause to be laid by a member of the Commission. So it can no longer be the chair of Public Accounts Committee. That's what the member is saying. So, Chair, would you like to?
We propose that we delete the current sub-rule 4 and replace it with a new rule.
New sub-rule.
New sub-rule 4. The Speaker shall cause the report to be laid in the House by a member of the Commission. Thank you.
Yes, clarification from Busongora.
It's a general issue, Right Honorable Speaker.
Can we wait for general issues then while we deal with specific
it's
provisions?
in this field, Right Honorable Speaker.
Okay.
I just want a clarification from the chair, especially with amendments where everywhere, Right Honorable Speaker, almost everywhere, we are replacing the clerk with the speaker. I would like to know from the chair, as you're replacing the clerk with the speaker, are you having any other embodiment for the clerk, and also the spirit in which we have been saying and betting that you are putting too much work on the table of the speaker? Are you not overloading the speaker?
Thank you. What we are actually doing is stating in fact what usually happens in practice, which is that the clerk receives these documents on behalf of the speaker. So it really changes nothing except to state the facts as they are supposed to be.
No, but still, so where is the document going to be submitted? Because the person who receives documents should be the office of the clerk.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was just thinking that it would be reversing the processes by first taking the report to the office of the speaker, and then the speaker sends it back to the clerk. I would think the clerk receives it on behalf of the speaker, and then the process continues.
So, Mr. Speaker, yes. Mr. Speaker, I think this amendment, particularly this one, I suggest, considering the kind of contradiction that would have, and also in the event that yes, the clerk works on the direction of the speaker. The speaker, we are putting the speaker in a tricky situation. That when a document, for example, a member submits it to the speaker, and maybe the clerk, and the clerk is the one who actually distributes the order or business of the day, for example, or in a document, for example. Mr. Speaker, don't you think it would be fair for us as Parliament to have at least this particular aspect become a preserve of the clerk, so that in the event that, for example, I come to you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I am saying, Right Honorable Speaker, I have this document I'm going to lay on the table, but you also refer me to the clerk, and then I don't know whether the clerk will also refer to you. So it will be a ping pong, Right Honorable Speaker. It will be double work, it will be triple work.
Honorable members, this is what happens. If any document is required to be submitted to Parliament, it will be submitted through the clerk. But even all agencies know that they submit through the clerk. But there are sometimes symbolic significance of the document, the physical showing that the document has been brought to Parliament. So by extension, they now bring a copy to the speaker. And there is normally a small ceremony with cameras and things like that. That is different from what should be how you submit documents to Parliament. The desk that seals approval of documents of this nature is the office of the clerk. But usually when the Auditor General comes to bring the report, now the formal part of it, the ceremonial part of it, comes to the document and hands copies to the speaker in a symbolic way to show that now for the public to know that he has now submitted, and yet the document has already been transmitted through the clerk's office. So let's not mix up the two situations.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm seeking guidance for those of us who have legal minds. I'm looking at Rule 162, which we are amending now, vis-a-vis the Constitution or Article 163 under the Auditor General's report. Now, under 163, 5, or we start from 4, the Auditor General shall submit to Parliament annually a report of the accounts audited by him or her under Section 3 of this article for the financial year immediately preceding. 5, Parliament shall, within 6 months, I'm thinking of that, within 6 months after the submission of the report referred to in clause 4 of this article, debate and consider the report and take appropriate action. The reason why I'm raising this, Right Honorable Speaker, it is a constitutional provision for the Auditor General's account to be scrutinized, to be brought to this House and to be debated, so that appropriate action is taken and we can at least stop any disaster happening to the public finance. But the practice has been that the public accounts report, as scrutinized and brought to this house, is after so many years that even if we find pitfalls, even if we have discovered any porous aspect in the rules, in the law, in the practice, we cannot cure it. So I am thinking that our practice has been breaching the spirit under Article 163, subsection 4, 5, and 6 of the Constitution. I don't know how the committee can look at that section and see whether we can do something now that we have opened the rules to ensure that the report of the committee of public accounts be submitted within 6 months of the report as submitted by the Auditor General and debated and appropriate action taken to cure the problems that we have encountered in the process. I'm just requesting that you help me to look at this provision in the Constitution vis-a-vis what we are discussing under Rule 162 being amended. Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I believe that with regard to specifically who receives the Auditor General's report, you had provided guidance to this House that I think the committee cannot add anything substantial to that. That what we are referring to here is the receipt of that Auditor General's report, who receives it. And as the Speaker has guided, that report is received by the Speaker.
By the clerk.
By the clerk. So if the House so desires, we can concede on this.
Yeah.
I thought it was a concluded matter.
That one, you see,
not here.
The matter being raised by the member for Dokholo district is a constitutional matter. The only problem has been that structurally we have not been doing it that way. The chair is here. She can elaborate for you the problems. Now we're trying to say that can we like rank the queries? Because the Public Accounts Committee does not consider the entire report of the Auditor General. It's supposed to look at the queries raised by the Auditor General. Yes. There's a queries 1, queries 2. And the proposal that in terms of executing it, they should rank them. Category A are those big ones, category B are those middle, and then the others. But the problem that has been happening is the Public Accounts want to look at all the queries. So by the time you finish with the query of the head teacher of Lalogi Primary School in Omoro district, you have almost forgotten about the one that has been handled by the permanent secretary in the ministry of another ministry. So if they did the ranking like this, they will be able to finish with the major ones, because the recommendation will generally be the same. After all, the Auditor General has already raised the query. So that is where operationally they might need to, I'm sure the chair can say something on this, but that's what they're now trying to do, to try and rank the queries and deal with the ones that will immediately. Otherwise, 5 years later, some of the people, the queries you are raising, the members have since moved. There was a time a matter was being raised here about a CEO who was now a member of parliament and a member of the committee, because it was 5 years ago. I think it was in the 7th parliament.
Right Honorable Speaker, the practice is, once we have agreed to open the Constitution for amendment, we normally use that opportunity to amend other issues within that mandate. So I'm saying, I'm pleading with the committee, but it looks as if they're not interested in what I'm talking about, and yet it's a very important matter. What I'm saying is, since we have arrived at this particular moment, which deals with the functions of the Public Accounts Committee, how the reports are delivered to Parliament, now we have agreed who delivers the report to Parliament. I'm now pleading that can we use that section to bring in this aspect which has been open-ended. Nobody has looked into it, and yet is a constitutional mandate. So now that we have agreed on the method of delivery of the report, can you now guide us how we can implement this constitutional provision? That's what I'm asking for.
Just a moment. Right Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Member from Dokolo has introduced a new dimension into this specific issue that we were discussing. This committee will not wind up its work with the adoption of these amendments, but is an ongoing process. And therefore, this is something which I cannot, on the spur of the moment, considering the implications, I cannot just make a proposal right here on the floor. The committee, I think, has taken what you have proposed.
No, please. Because first, chair, first wait. I think we are making a mistake. You just made a mistake. Please, let's go back to what we have deleted. In clause 4, I mean sub-rule 4. Yeah. Sub-rule 4 is not talking about the report of the Auditor General. It's talking about the report of the committee, which is supposed to be in line with section Article 163(5). Yes, Article 163, sub-article 5 is what is being talked about in Rule 162, 4, as it is in the rules now. So the new sub-rule that they have proposed is I think is a different matter. The Speaker shall quote the.
Yeah, we can create a new sub-rule.
That the one you are talking about is what is currently in 4 in the rules.
Yeah, but does it specify?
It does.
Mr. Speaker, I was just about to propose that to take care of the provisions of the constitutional Article 163, 5, that Parliament shall within 6 months after submission of the report referred to in clause 4 of the article, debate and consider the report and take appropriate action. I thought we would need to rephrase, because what we have deleted was just in terms of who lays the report on table. But to make sure that this article, the constitutional provision is abided with, we would need to rephrase sub-rule 4, which then probably now becomes sub-rule 5. Yeah? And say that in accordance with the Article 163, 5 of the Constitution, the committee, the Public Accounts Committee, will then consider the report of the Auditor General and report to the House within 6 months. I know that sub-rule 2 also kind of says something like that. So, but just to bring in the issue, the provision of the Constitution, to make it clear that it's a constitutional mandate.
You see, honorable members, if you look at the current in the rules, sub-rule 4, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report under sub-rule 3, lay the report on the table for purposes of debate by the House under clause 5 of Article 163 of the Constitution. What needs to be changed here, shall lay the report of the committee, so that it is clear. Okay? Because now it sounds as if it is laying the report of the Auditor General. That's why we ended up deleting it. So, but in respect of this, it is referring to the report of the Committee of Public Accounts. Should lay on the table for debate under Article 165 and 163, 5. Isn't that the situation?
Yeah, that comes out.
Yeah, because it is there.
So, Chairman, can you rephrase
So just lay the report of the committee.
To remove the committee, it should be the committee, not public accounts.
It's the Committee of Public Accounts.
Committee of public accounts.
Yes.
But not Auditor General.
Yeah, not the Auditor General, because the Auditor General's report will have already been received under sub-rule 1 and 2.
Chair.
Mr.
Being a-
Speaker, can you hold on? I'm holding the floor. Mr. Speaker, in light of this discussion, then also sub-rule 3 needs to be amended because it is saying the clerk, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report, shall deliver the same to the Public Accounts Committee. Yet when the clerk receives it, then the commissioner tables it here, that's when it goes to the committee. So we have to amend 3 the way it looks now.
Yeah, we have adopted that procedure, so there's a record of when actually the report was sent to the committee. That's why even the ministerial report statements say first lay them here, so that we know, because they just used to put them in the pigeonholes, and yet there are time frames. Yes, Kapalebio?
I needed to seek a clarification from the chair of the legal committee. There are situations where the committee of public accounts or local government accounts were supposed to deliberate on this report as required by law, are supposed to execute their mandate within 6 months. But you find sometimes we are told, like, for instance, this year, we were not able to execute our mandate within 6 months because we were told resources were not available for that matter, which was contradicting the constitution, which says this must be done within six months. How do we address that? How do our rules of procedure address that part? In a situation where it is not parliament which has failed, but the situation has been complicated by maybe the executive, for that matter. By the executive, by not availing resources.
It can never be the other side. That is an administrative thing within Parliament. Let's not go into too many details about. Chair, then Padire, please let's see how to move.
Yeah, I still just want to talk about the 6 months, because when the budget processes begin, the speaker usually tells us to go into abeyance. And yet they're counting these 6 months, and we will take like two months on the budget. And probably we will request that public accounts or accountability committees, for that matter, be allowed to sit all through to take care of this rule of 6 months.
True. I think that because you see, even accountability is part of the budget. So the thing is that those 3 committees, because now they have changed the naming, is Public Accounts 1, which is Central, Public Accounts 2, which is Local Government, Public Accounts 3, which used to be COSASE. They have now changed the names. We have adopted that. So it's just basically Public Accounts Committee, except it has 3 different committees handling it. So these committees, the point is that they should, when you are sending committees, suspending works of standing committees, these ones must continue because they are part of the processes. I think that's what the member.
Yeah, just a minute. Just even.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I think you have guided, so far we are moving very well. You raised a point, that's why I don't want it to get out of our mind, which says, if we are going to scrutinize every detail of the report and bring it here, we will not succeed. We will not meet the mandate of the 6 months, and then we deal with the key issues which will help us manage public accounts. It will not be possible. So I think we need to come out with a method of work which I hope it can be incorporated in this rule. That's why I'm laboring really, so that the public accounts, whether public accounts 1, 2, and 3, will lift out the key issues which will be of importance in the management of public accounts. And if that could be done within 6 months. But if we say the report per se is going to be practically difficult. So maybe we have to find a way, maybe the chair of public accounts can help us frame it in a manner that will make it practically possible that they will lift out the key issues that can be dealt with, and the implementation of those issues will help us in public account, in public finance management. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think the constitutional period of 6 months and so on has been carefully taken care of under 4. That's why they didn't mention the 6 months. They only said the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report, under sub-rule 3, lay the report on table for purposes of debate.
Lay the report of the committee.
Yeah, yes, yeah. That is what I was going to go to. By adding of the committee, now it becomes very clear that it's the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the document which was laid by the Auditor General. Now, what I was moving on is, Right Honorable Chair, is that Right Honorable Speaker, is that under 3, we should read the clerk shall receive the Auditor General's report submitted. The clerk shall receive the Auditor General's report. I think that is enough. And then we go to the 4th one, as was amended by the committee. The clause 4, the new one to be inserted, that the speaker, I think, shall cause a commissioner to lay the report on the floor. And then, yeah, that's 4. So that now 4 becomes 5 with the word of the committee, report of the committee. I think in that way it will be settled. And let's not go into tying or mentioning the 6 months under this rule, the new rule 5. It should remain the way it is under 4, but of course with that amendment of the report of the committee.
You see, what has now happened is that after ventilating existing sub-rule 4, the proposed new rule 4 cannot hold, because still talking about the report of the Auditor General. And yet 4, which you have amended now, is now talking about after the committee has already considered in 4, it is the report of the committee that is now coming to be debated. Now the new one which is being proposed is still talking about the report of the Auditor General. So, no, it cannot. It cannot. If it is to stand, it should be at the beginning. Then it should be at the beginning. It cannot be after you are beginning to debate, then you are saying, yeah. Sequencing is crucial. There are things that come first and there are things that come after, even in eating food.
Now, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with you, because my understanding of the proposal by the chair of the committee has been on the methodology of processing the report, receiving, and then after it's received by the clerk, it is laid on table. My understanding is that it should not be the same committee or public accounts that is going to scrutinize it to lay it here. So it caters for it very well that the commissioner lays the report of the Auditor General here, and then later it's now sent to the public accounts, and then their report comes back here. So their report should be number 5, then their number 4 proposal of the speaker causing a commissioner to lay it here becomes number 4, and then number 3 is of course now will not go as it is in the law here. In the rule here. It should be just the clerk shall receive, to just on the receive.
See, Honorable Members, this is the sequencing. The report will be received by the clerk. Upon received by the clerk, that report, the speaker will cause it to be laid on the table of Parliament by a commissioner. Upon laying, because once it's laid, it goes to public accounts. Then the Public Accounts Committee will now come under the new 4. Under 4, to bring the report back and debate within, according to the provision of rules, Article 163(5) of the Constitution. And then we are done. Receive, handle, present, debate, finish.
Right, Honorable Speaker, can you protect me from the Honorable Member from Dokolo?
You are always protected.
Thank you very much. The committee will now propose a new sub-rule 4 to Rule 162, which would read, the Speaker shall cause the report of the Auditor General to be laid in the House by a member of the Commission. Then sub-rule 5, the Speaker shall, subject to redrafting by our technical staff, the Speaker shall forward the report to the Public Accounts Committee, which shall report on it, we shall lay a report.
Time frame is 45 days.
Yes.
That one is for all committees.
I was just proposing that probably the committee needs a little time to phrase this.
No,
properly,
we can do it.
The chair is trying to phrase it by himself. And
no.
I know that we are both paralegals and we need...
The chair is ably advised by members of the committee.
I think we did very well when it came to matters relating to the budget, when we referred back the team to do the redrafting, and we came back with an agreed position. In the same spirit, I think we should retreat on this one and come back with a better position.
So the sequencing which we are going to articulate if we adopt the issue of adjourning is a report will be presented by the Auditor General through the clerk office. Upon receipt of that report by the clerk, it will be, the Speaker will cause it to be laid on the floor of Parliament and transmitted to the Committee on Public Accounts. After the Public Accounts Committee handles it within the framework of the rules, it will come back and facilitate a debate. But within, under the provision of Article 163(5), that is provided. After that, there's no more business. It's done. Because we take a decision, we make recommendations, it's done. So if you are going to make the amendment, have discussions along those lines, it's okay. Then you come back and we adopt the text now.
Of the chair, as he does that, he needs to look at, because the same thing appears for all the other subcommittees of accountability, all other public accounts committees, COSASE and local government accounts. So he needs to take note of that.
Procedure?
Seeking your procedural guidance on the former, on former 4, which we have allowed to stand. The wording is really very clear, Right Honorable Speaker. The chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall, upon receipt of the auditor, upon receipt, that means it has been received after it was laid here by a member of the commission. Under sub-rule 3, now under sub-rule 3 will now be there, because under sub-rule 3 was that the clerk would receive and pass to. That will be the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report, lay the report of the committee on the table for the purposes of debate by the House under Clause 5 of Article 163 of the Constitution, or in accordance with Clause 5 of Article 163 of the Constitution. Right, Honorable Chair. Would it be procedure right really for us to stand on it and go and redraft when the wording seems very clear here?
Chair, are we okay with the text? Can we adopt? Because there is a one of, I mean, now the actual text itself is what we are looking for.
Right,
the principle is clear.
Yeah, right, Honorable Speaker, I was of the opinion that we can actually get this rule done now.
Proceed.
Right, yeah. So,
Rule 162, 1.
could the honorable member guide me again?
I think, Chair, I think you should read almost the same like in the former rule, which says the chairperson of the public accounts.
We are starting with 162, 1.
162, 1, of course, is the public accounts committee shall comprise of 30 members. That is just
Okay,
the number.
that one is okay.
Then 62.2 is the public accounts committee shall be assigned examination, audited accounts, and so on.
Okay.
Now, his real amendment started from 162.3, which for me, I was proposing it should remain that the clerk shall receive the Auditor General's report, full stop.
Okay.
And then we go to 4 as amended, as amended. Then the 4 now in the former rule becomes 5. That will say the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report, then delete under sub-rule 3, because now we are not following sub-rule 3 as it was. Then go to lay the report on the table for the purposes of debate. Lay the report of the committee, or consider and lay. That's what she's adding. Okay.
You might need to split it.
No, it should just be lay the report
Procedure.
of the committee on the table for the purposes of debate by the House under clause 5, or in accordance with clause 5 of Article 163 of the Constitution. I beg to move.
You might want to split that paragraph now. Existing
Yes,
4.
Mr. Speaker, if I could just give this option. It would say, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report under sub-rule 3, process, scrutinize, and process the report, and therefore lay its report, the committee report, on the floor of the House for purposes of consideration and decision-making.
Procedure.
For purposes of
Procedure, Mr.
debate.
Speaker.
It's just the wording, but what we need to capture there is that the committee will process the report of the Auditor General.
That's why I was saying you could split that, the existing 4, split it into 2. You will receive the report and process it within the framework of the rules under 45 days, within 45 days. And then the next, please. And then the next aspect of that now will be the one where you will now lay it here for debate. You can split the 2 to be smart, because 4 as it is, it's combining 2 procedures in 1.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I propose that since we agreed on what to do and how to do it, let the committee redraft this and we can bring it to the House tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you.
Guidance, Speaker. I'm seeking guidance on something.
From who?
From the Speaker.
I don't do guidance. I do procedure or order.
Procedural matter, perhaps.
Yes, yes.
Earlier on, a decision was taken, and that decision made the Committee of Science and Technology a sectoral committee. And I'm aware some people have been designated to that committee because each member is supposed to belong to a sectoral committee and a sessional committee. Now that the decision of this House has made that committee a sectoral committee, I wanted to understand what happens to people who find themselves in 2 sectoral committees. Thank you.
No, I communicated here earlier that upon review of the rules, because there were going to be changes of committees and there were numbers going to be affected and even membership going to be affected, the whips will handle the resignations and then come back to the House. So if you are in a committee that was a standing committee, which is no longer a standing committee, then the whips will handle the reallocation proper, the reallocation of members properly, appropriately. That's administrative now. Chair.
Rule 166. Functions of the Committee on the National Economy. Under Sub-Rule 2, insert the following. D, to assess the national performance of the economy. E, to assess the debt sustainability of the country. F, to analyze the annual borrowing plan of government. Justification. These functions would provide Parliament with vital information required for it to appreciate the actual state of the economy. Insert a new sub-rule as follows. 3. The committee shall report to the House at least twice a year. Justification. To make it mandatory for the committee to report to the House on its functions.
Can I put a question to that, honorable members? Is that Manjia?
Yeah, this is Manjia, please. I would request that Part D be rephrased to read as to assess annually the performance of loans and guarantees that are approved by Parliament. The justification, Mr. Speaker, would be that this would enable us to have to provide adequate oversight on the performance of projects that are financed by external borrowing.
But why would you want to replace D with that? Would not that be additional? Because D is about performance of the economy.
Of the economy, but it leaves out.
No, you could then make another one that is specific to that one.
Oh, that would be good. That would be. That
What was it?
Please, I'm proposing.
Propose.
I'm proposing an additional sub-rule that it reads as to assess annually the performance of loans and guarantees that are approved by Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, is it taken care of somewhere? Chair, budget?
Mr. Speaker, how do you arrive at debt sustainability? It's by looking at that information. So it is already subsumed in E, which we already have here.
That sustainability, member for Manjia, doesn't it take care of that one? Is it sustainable or is it not?
Chair, Right Honourable Speaker, I think
the F which is closer to it, not E.
Right Honourable Speaker, I think debt sustainability looks at the ability of the economy to borrow money which it can easily manage in terms of servicing it within its abilities. That's what we look at under sustainability. But what the honourable member is saying, that once a loan has been borrowed, Parliament would like to know how that loan is performing. Not necessarily the ability of the country to conveniently borrow money, which it can conveniently pay back within the confines of how the size of its economy, how much it has already borrowed. That's what we look at as sustainability.
So, in other words, the proposal by the member for Manjia, if they could be in the House here, the proposal, honourable member for Manjia, is separate. That's what the member is saying. So, can we adopt this and move, honourable minister?
Mr. Speaker, earlier on in one of the rules, we suggested that when ministers are submitting ministerial policy statements, this should be accompanied by the performance of loans in that sector. My understanding would be that now, indirectly we are saying sectoral committees should assess this performance. So I don't know whether the member is suggesting that all the loans and the performance of all the loans be submitted to the Committee of National Economy for assessment, or whether it would be smarter and more effective to be assessed at the level of the sector committees.
No, we adopted that position that if a loan is borrowed for education, in the course of submitting the ministerial policy statement, the statement should contain the statement on performance of that loan, which will now be scrutinized by that sectoral committee. Would there therefore be a need again to have that looked at again by the Committee on National Economy? That's the issue. Bulisa.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. First of all, I wanted to volunteer information as former member and chair of the National Economy, to the effect that, one, the Minister of Finance, prior to the budget, provides a report on loans, grants, and guarantees. That document, when laid on the floor of Parliament, should be scrutinized by the Committee of National Economy. Unfortunately, the experience I've seen with now the time limit we have, I see those reports, analysis by the Budget Committee on order paper and until they fade out. I would want to use this Rules Committee innovation to give space for us to make use of the already existing literature which comes from finance. And that day when that rule, Honorable Speaker, was passed here, I thought we had an administrative, and that's what I wanted to see in the rule. There was an administrative way that if education brings a loan request, the committee did make demand. It was our own innovation as leaders. That committee does not pass a loan without presenting the performance of all its loans. You don't pass a loan from a sector, say health, say education, say energy, without it volunteering information on performance of its loan. So the two, looking at that annual presentation by the Minister for the loan, report on loans, grants and guarantees, and individual sector presentations when they have loan were away. So I was trying to see how the committee, the Rules Committee could take advantage of that. But also not forgetting, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, that the earlier submission to the effect of Manjia on the sustainability vis-a-vis the performance. Yes, there is a debt strategy. The debt strategy demands that the Ministry of Finance also makes its own assessment of both the debt stock and the performance. But as I said earlier, the budget Parliament is privileged to do oversight, not necessarily to depend on the declaration of finance, because finance is the respondent. So we use our own budget office to make analysis if what they are presenting is acceptable and authentic. So I thought we would make innovation with those existing arrangements and get the best of the rules.
Yeah, thank you very much. A loan, and particularly performance, is measured in different dimensions. There is the question of sustainability, repayment, but also there is that question of utilization. As a chairperson of the Committee of Government Assurances, we got into the problem of seeing loans acquired with the terms and conditions which include counterpart funding fail to take off because the government has failed to fulfill that element, the pledge that we borrow this money, we provide this much as counterpart funding. Therefore, the question of which committee scrutinizes the loans, how do we put the element of counterpart funding failure vis-a-vis the role of the Committee on Government Assurances? How do we also look at the issue of sustainability from the angle of the Committee on National Economy. Therefore, my appeal here, my suggestion, my submission is that looking at the rules here at this moment should not exclusively say loans are in the purview, under the purview of the Committee on National Economy, because we as Committee of Government Assurances are confronted with that element of counterpart funding if not provided the loan doesn't take off. Thank you.
Kinkizi West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the point of clarification I'm seeking from the chair is if a loan request is presented in the Parliament, which committee will it go to be processed for refining the end results for the Parliament to approve? Two, Mr. Speaker, we have loans which are non-performing. How will the Parliament know the non-performing loans? When is it the Committee of National Economy or the Sector Committee? Because it is important, Mr. Speaker, that we get updated as a Parliament. The loans we pass, how we perform on an annual basis. I think it is proper. And who addresses that? And is it also addressed within these proposals? How do we capture that to make sure we are at par with the performance of the loans that we have passed as Parliament? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support the proposal by my honorable colleague from Manjia. Indeed, sustainability is about assessing whether you can still continue to borrow. But then the report on the performance will help us see how the sector has utilized the loan and whether that sector can be allowed to borrow in subsequent requests when it's brought to Parliament. The reasoning is that earlier we made a provision, but the national economy will aggregate all the loans and report to us. Because whenever the Ministry of Finance brings a request, they will tell us the GDP debt ratio is 35 and we are still below 50. But Parliament should have its own mechanism of ascertaining whether we are actually at 36 or already at 48 without relying on the information coming from Ministry of Finance. The second point is about the proposal in D, which I find redundant. Because in A, under the rules, the current rules we have, there is a provision to examine. And then in D, you are just changing the word to assess, which is basically the same thing. I wanted the chair to clarify, in our current rules, the A part of it, 166, 2A, and then what you are proposing in D. How different are the two provisions that you have proposed?
Busongora, North.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to propose the following, rephrasing Part D. Part D, to read as follows: to assess annually the performance of loans and guarantees approved by Parliament. Justification: to provide adequate oversight over the performance of all projects financed by external borrowing. 2, to provide adequate oversight over companies or institutions guaranteed by government. 3, to be consistent to the parliamentary guidelines that requires the assessment of all loans under a particular sector. Right Honourable Speaker, I also propose that the committee should insert the following. G. Yes, let me finish.
G on the same 166?
Yeah.
Is it on 166?
Yeah, 166, yeah.
Proceed.
G, to examine the annual state of indebtedness and management of government debt, including the debt management performance assessment framework. Justification: to provide adequate oversight over management of public debt,
Roman 2, to be consistent with Section 42, 2 and 3 of the Public Finance Act 2015. Right Honorable Speaker, I still propose that we start the following. H, to examine loan guarantee requests and assess the performance of existing ones by government. Justification, to be consistent with Section 39, 2, and 3 and 4 of the Public Finance Act 2015. Roman 2, to provide adequate oversight over the performance of existing guarantees. Finally, Right Honorable Speaker, I also propose that we start I, examine the report on grants received by government. The justification is 1, to provide adequate oversight on grants received by government, and 2, to be consistent with Section 44(5) of the Public Finance Act 2015. Right Honorable Speaker, in the same vein, I just want to also add that 3, according to the committee proposal, that the committee shall report to the House at least twice a year. Right Honorable Speaker, I wanted us to be a little bit clear, because reporting twice a year, it could be that maybe they can report in September and also report in October, and that one becomes twice a year. And this may not inform the members, may not inform Parliament properly.
Honorable, thank you for giving way. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the committee has been reporting quarterly on the state of the economy, quarterly, because also government dispenses money in quarterly, and it's a good routine reporting. So when you make it quarterly, I think it's more routine and possible.
So, Right Honorable Speaker, I don't agree with the proposal of the committee, and I want to say that we actually have it as, maintain it as quarterly. I want to thank you.
Thank you. That is a handful. Honorable members, this House is adjourned to tomorrow 2 o'clock.